Cinemodities, late night movies. It's Rob, Ben, and Zack. This is a podcast about cinematic oddities where we discuss any media that is too bizarre, abnormal, or off-kilter for contemporary audiences. Occasionally, these projects gel. Most times they crash hard into the realm of obscurity. Join us as we delve into the cult classic swamp. I'm Zack.
I'm Ben.
And what's plural for orifice? Orify? No, I wasn't in a coma. Oh, right, I was in a coma. It wasn't like I was in a coma and goofing off. I was thinking of hilarious new bits the whole time. You see, it's all synergy. The show synergizes the strip synergizes the merchandising synergizes the religion synergizes the Barbara Walters special. And then, baby, we are all in the United Empire of Monkeybonium. How was that? Should I do another take?
That was pretty good. I'm surprised you got all the way through it.
Oh, God. We are finally doing it. Like I mentioned at the end of last week, it's a movie I've had on my list since the start of this podcast. It's Monkeybone. And I know, Zack, this is technically part of the 2001 Fort year. But we're brushing that aside this week, because yes, it is 2001, but more importantly, this is the start of our Henry Selick series. I've said it so many goddamn times on this podcast that I want to do the Henry Selick series, and we are starting with his third film. And honestly, I don't know if there's a better way to start Henry Selick than with Monkeybone. I've decided to save all of the Henry Selick history and background for when we actually focus on his other movies and the dedicated series for him, which will come up whenever the Fort year is over, which seems to have no end in sight. But we eventually will get to The Nightmare Before Christmas and things like that. But we're just going to focus on Monkeybone for today. I think that's the one thing of background I do want to mention, because it's going to come up a lot in what I have to say about this movie. Henry Selick, the first film he ever directs is The Nightmare Before Christmas, not Tim Burton. Tim Burton did not direct that. Henry Selick did. So, I have the most things to say about this movie. 2 weeks ago, when Zack and I covered The Silence of the Lamb and Hannibal, Silence of the Lambs, I think there was more than one lamb in that movie, I said that I had 5.5 pages of notes. But I explained it and it made some sense because I had watched all 5 Hannibal Lecter films. So I had a reason to have a lot of notes. For Monkeybone, I have 5 full pages of notes on one movie. And I think this is where I'm coming from. I have so much context. I'm going to be talking a lot. I think everyone will agree this is a Rob episode with a capital R and a capital O and a capital B and a capital Monkeybone. This is the most fundamentally misunderstood film of probably all of human existence, so much so that it is criminal. And I'm going to explain why it's misunderstood, how it should be understood, and why it is an incredibly prescient and important film. So clearly, as we said before recording, Zack was like, we're all going to be unanimous. You all agree with me, right? That there's so much going on in this movie, it's almost unbelievable.
There's a lot of something happening in this movie.
I guess I'll give my context for it. I don't have any. I was told to watch this movie, but I watched it after I watched Willy's Wonderland. So, whatever.
I think this should be like a point of merchandise, because every time we even before Zack came back, when we had you on, Ben, it'd always be like, Ben, you ever seen this before? And you'd be like, no, you made me watch it. And like, we had 2 exceptions when you picked Walking Tall and The Rundown, where you're like, I actually seen these movies before. We should have a shirt or something where it's like, Ben's context, there is none. Like, that's the font on the front of the shirt. I saw it this morning.
And that is literally true for this episode. I actually watched it. I think I finished watching it about 2 hours ago.
It's fresh.
Maybe 2.5 hours ago now, because of how much we talked before we started recording. Yeah, that's it. We'll get into my thoughts about it, but I liked it more than I thought I would. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
I am intrigued by that comment, Ben. I am intrigued. All right, my context. I've been familiar with this movie for 20 years. I have the VHS of it down, much like the Gremlins 2, the new batch VHS that's now in Roth's possession. I am holding my copy of Monkeybone. Yeah, I have like no memory of how I got introduced to this movie, other than it was in that very formative year of 2001, which is one of the cornerstones of the Fort year. I remember there was Monkeybone merchandise, which I wish I bought because like it goes for an insane amount of money now on eBay because much like the Freak merchandise, it just basically disappeared the moment it was available.
Yes.
Other than that, I always remembered this movie. Like as I rewatched this for the first time easily in like 15 years, I remembered almost every twist and turn it took, except for a couple moments here and there. And that's kind of it. I wish I had more context to it. I really did. I'm pretty sure the VHS I have is, oh God, I wish I could tell it. It feels like, it's not a blockbuster. It was brand new at the time. But yeah, I guess my other bit is that the VHS tape does this thing I used to love with VHS movies, is that the cassette is actually blue.
Ooh, right on.
I wish it was orange to match like Monkeybone's skin tone. But the fact that like it's a blue like cassette is fascinating, and we'll definitely delve into this though. But I've always been fascinated by the fact that like ever since this movie was released in theaters, like the main way, like its main like promotional image is just Brendan Fraser pointing at the camera, Chris Kattan holding his neck up, and Monkeybone holding two bananas as if they're pistols.
Yes.
That's literally the main thing this movie is known for now, is like that stock promotional image. And other than that, I am absolutely fascinated to see the director. I have a feeling this is going to be a men, women, and children level of debate between Rob and I. Maybe even private parts level, where Rob and I argue over the merits of this film.
Oh God. I have to comment on that cover that you mentioned, that promotional material. One of the absolutely most ridiculous decisions, and I do get where they're coming from, Chris Kattan on SNL in the early 2000s, but Chris Kattan is in this movie for like 15 minutes at the end, and he is on the poster. I find that absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's definitely weird. I would have expected Julie or her before organ donor Chris Kattan.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, they would have put Bridget Fonda, but she died of embarrassment after this movie came out.
Zach, do you know who Bridget Fonda is married to?
No, I know who her father is.
What was your guess, Ben?
Well, I said, is it Chris Kattan's liver?
No, that would be awesome. Maybe at the time of this filming, we could only hope that she was married to an organ. But she's actually married to Danny Elfman, Mr. Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo himself. I didn't know that.
Really?
I didn't know that till the research of the movie. They've been married for like 18 years at this time of this recording.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And
maybe some real love.
we can only hope.
Yet. She hasn't seen Hot Tomorrows yet.
It's just my understanding of like anybody in show business. Like they don't actually have any idea what love is. They get infatuated with each other and then get married and then get divorced. Unless they're like country singers. Like that's the only thing.
I like that.
Ben, you know a very important stage of that. The part where they start adopting children from Africa.
Oh yeah, Brangelina.
Yes.
What happened to them? Did they get divorced?
Yes. And Angelina tried like smearing him over Hollywood, except that everybody loves Brad Pitt and it didn't work.
Wow, so she tried to cancel Brad Pitt?
She did.
You can't cancel Brad Pitt. I think you get self-canceled for trying to cancel.
That's literally what happened to her. She got self-canceled. It backfired.
Yeah, he's like that. Rob would know the card from Yu-Gi-Oh. The like mirror card. Like
mirror
two
wall?
Tunnels and like you do damage to the damage comes back at you.
Oh, Magic Cylinder.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, Rob knew that. Rob literally knew that from the vaguest description possible.
If Ben mentioned any Yu-Gi-Oh card in like the first 18 years of Yu-Gi-Oh existing, I'd know it. Oh God.
He was a pro.
So my context, I did not see this in theaters. I remember very specifically that I had like cousins staying at my place, and we rented a movie from like I don't think it was a Blockbuster. I think it was like a more local video rental place, and that video was Monkeybone. I have no clue why Monkeybone was chosen at all, but I just remember that I'm pretty sure in however long we had the rental for, the VHS was watched 3 times. Like, I fell in love with this movie when I was a kid. Like, I was so into it. And I kind of stuck with me. And then, of course, as I get older, and then I start collecting files in my undergrad, I'm like, oh, Monkeybone, like, I have to get it. And I get a copy of it, I watch it, and I still love it. It's got that nostalgia feel. It's that goofy stuff, you know. I love the look of it, of course. I've always been a big stop-motion fan. And then I kind of just stuck with it. Like, I'd show it to other people. And eventually, as I started to think about it more, I'm like, there's more going on in this movie than I kind of realized, you know, when I was younger, when I first watched it. I would say for maybe the past 5 years, 6 years, I probably watch this once or twice a year. I love it so much. Every time I watch it, I just kind of think about it more and more. And as I mentioned, I already have all my 5 pages of notes on this movie. I watched it 3 times in preparation for this recording. Even when I wasn't watching it, I was thinking about it, and I was like, oh, I gotta write that down. And even before we started this Skype call, I was like, oh shit, that too, and I was writing that down. Like I said, I have all the takes on this movie. Every single take on this movie. I'm so excited to get into it. But Zach, you're probably not wrong. This is gonna be a heated argument, I'm sure, as we usually love on Cinemodities.
Well, I'm intrigued with this because, like, okay, I don't know if I adored this as a kid. I just remember being smitten with it, and I think your and I's context line up in that, like, we kind of can't figure why this like film like came across this film in our youth. Like, we were what, 8, 9 years old.
Yeah.
And I saw, everyone's probably seen it. It's like on IMDb, one of the, like, the pieces of trivia is like, oh, Cartoon Network promoted the film heavily, and it's partly responsible for the creation of Adult Swim, which I'm like, I have never heard of that before. But it makes sense that, like, this is probably how they advertised it, probably hoping they could get children, like just kind of like dredge them in by that. But like, that's the thing though. It's like, I really have no idea how I came across this movie.
Like I said, I remember renting it. I don't know why it was rented, all that stuff, but at least we have it. I did see that IMDb trivia fact as well. I had to dive into that. I could find nothing to back that up. Absolutely nothing related to Adult Swim or Cartoon Network and Monkeybone leading to Adult Swim. And so once again, I mean, are we finally accepting the fact that IMDb trivia is not the bastion of truth we think it is? I think this is like the 3rd week in a row I'm saying this.
But the thing about those, like, it feels like, oh god, IMDb trivia has kind of evolved into what, like, the message boards were on there.
Yeah.
Where it's become just like where people post things they have like a very lukewarm idea about. Because, like, even though there's no information backing that claim up, it feels accurate. Like, I could very easily imagine Cartoon Network promoting this.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's one of those trivia things I read that is intriguing enough that I want to dive into it more. But like I said, I found absolutely nothing. I went down a rabbit hole of, well, how was Adult Swim created? And I could find nothing about Monkeybone, which I was very upset about. I would have loved to talk about that more. But I mean, we shouldn't skip over the fact. Are we accepting this? Like, this is a safe space, you guys. Like, Ben, if you want to cry a little bit about words on the internet being false, it's okay, because we're being slighted right now, aren't we?
I'm just reminded of this comic. You know, the guy's at his computer and his wife's like, "Are you coming to bed?" And he's like, "No, there's someone wrong on the internet." I mean, I think maybe I was never deluded into thinking that IMDb trivia was factual at all. It always seemed like just a shoot off of Yahoo Answers to me. There's like people are just saying whatever they want, and there's no fact checking or corroborating required. So
there's definitely no fact checking. There's no corroboration. There's no sources needed. The thing that always gets me, like, and this is now me being serious about my thoughts on IMDb trivia, the thing that always gets me is that for popular movies, the same trivia fact will appear like multiple times on the list, clearly written by different people. And so nobody's policing this. And, you know, it's just like there's some movies, I'm sure it was when I was looking into it for, say, Silence of the Lambs or something, like a famous movie, you'll just see the same guy, like ever since Jodie Foster read the book, she wanted the rights and wanted to play Clarice Starling, and that comes up like 10 times on the list. And it's just like, oh, great, you know, it's so, there's 250 IMDb facts, but how many are repeated? You don't know. You have to actually scroll through them. It sucks.
Well, I mean, we can say that at least 10 people believe that. But I think that's all we can say. But I mean, it seems like it's easier to write an IMDb trivia fact than it is to edit a Wikipedia page.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I like I said, I don't think I was ever deluded.
I would love to go onto an IMDb trivia page now and find a fact, add a new fact that just restates that previous fact, and then at the bottom put source, scroll up 6 entries.
I was definitely thinking you were heading to like writing the exact negation of that.
That's what I thought too, Ben. That's why I thought he was
oh my
going.
god.
Like,
This
Jodie
might-
Foster has never read this book and doesn't know who Clarice is.
This might be like the new fun thing for people to do. Go out and just mess with IMDb trivia.
If we start a fad, I'm going to take credit for it, even though Zach had the same idea.
It's all right.
Oh god. Oh yeah. Goddamn IMDb trivia. So okay, good tangent IMDb trivia. Like I said, I could find nothing to back that up. We're gonna get to another thing actually that's a little more dangerous about something that's not true, but we'll get there. We have to set the stage. There's some background we need for Monkeybone, and I mentioned it first, but I want to just make sure everybody's aware that Henry Selick is the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't think either of you can tell me I'm wrong. It is the most merchandised film in the history of the universe. We're all in agreement to that, right? Zach, you're in agreement with me?
I would say it's the second most merchandise film in existence after Star Wars: The Phantom Menace.
What is
The Phantom Menace?
what is Star Wars? What is
I
that?
do not know what it's something that I think I just made up.
Is that
It's-
Ronald Reagan's nuclear
The
defense
Phantom
system?
Menace is the spiky-headed guy, right?
Yes, exactly. Ben figured it out, Rob.
What is a Star Wars? Who directed Star Wars? Do you know?
The Star Wars is a fever dream created by Dom Hall Gleason, in which he loses it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know about this Star Wars, but I could bet you. Don't look now. Wait till I go and edit it. There's an IMDb trivia fact for The Nightmare Before Christmas that says it's the most merchandised film ever. But don't check right now. Wait like 2 hours.
May I wait? Can we please create an IMDb trivia fact where we say The Nightmare Before Christmas is solely responsible for the creation of Hot Topic?
Well, that's probably
that actually
true.
that makes as much sense as the Adult Swim thing.
That's what I mean. I think it makes perfect sense. Is that we should create a fact called the store chain Hot Topic was on the verge of bankruptcy until 2000, where Disney decided to license the rights to it and save the brand from insolvency.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. God, and now Hot Topic is the 21 Pilots store.
I would say that I now believe that, but I think that I've always believed this. Like, this has always been true.
Ben's like, I've never been deluded by the lies on the internet, but Hot Topic, I fucking know that history.
21 Pilot shop and the Harley Quinn shop.
So, oh yeah, oh god, absolutely. So yes, Henry Selick directed Nightmare Before Christmas. I think Nightmare Before Christmas becomes ubiquitous. The merchandising was through the roof. That we need to establish before we get into Monkeybone. The second thing we need to establish. Oh god, Zach, there's more background. What are you trying to do right now?
No. This is trying to understand the background of Henry Selick, because like the Nightmare Before Christmas, like, what do you want to call it? Like, new wave phenomenon did not start until after Monkeybone came out, right?
Sure. Well, kind of. When we got the early 2000s kids, when they were like 8 or 9, that type of thing started that stuff. You're right. I think I see what you're saying.
I just want to set like a timetable for all this, because like that's the thing. Like, now, like, Night Before Christmas is ubiquitous in culture, and like back in the early 2000s, like, forget its time of release, it was kind of shunned. Like, I don't think like it got like a decent VHS release until like the early 2000s.
That I'm not sure about, because I focused my research on Monkeybone for this, but that could be the case, but I'm not sure.
Sure. Well, there's something to worth point out that like Henry Selick, like, think about it. Like he has Night Before Christmas, and it's kind of like a non-starter. And then you have James and Giant Peach, which was a major push by Disney in the mid-90s.
Yes.
And then you have Monkeybone, and this is where I'm kind of fascinated what Rob's like research told him, because like I read a bunch of just like wild stuff about the production of this movie and what happened after it was acquired by 20th Century Fox.
Sure.
Guys, I just came across the craziest fact about this. Did you know that?
Oh boy.
That Henry Selick and Tom Selleck actually became brothers after Monkeybone was released? And it was because of Monkeybone.
Oh my god.
Just for the people who couldn't see it, Ben like left his computer and left the room for a little bit. So I'm assuming he like got that fact from one of his pets.
That's pretty accurate.
My dog was just on IMDb trivia. Okay. So we had to set that up. The other thing we have to set up for this movie, and this is where it's going to get crazy, is the Church of the Subgenius. Are either of you guys familiar with the concept of the Church of the Subgenius?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So the Church of the Subgenius is a real-world, organized religion created to be a satire and parody of organized religion. So this is wildly fascinating. I think everybody should look into the Church of the Subgenius. It is some of the greatest, like, real-world performance art, if you want to put it in that category. But that plays a large role in Monkeybone. So I just wanted to give some background on the Church of the Subgenius because I've known about it for a while. It was definitely one of those things I found out through like an internet rabbit hole when I was like high in undergrad, and I was just like, this is the craziest thing. So this church, a main tenet of it is to reject mainstream commercialism. The idea is that they believe that there's a grand conspiracy controlling most humans and preventing them from achieving slack. Slack is the central teaching of the church, but it is never clearly defined. The main deity is something known as Jehovah One, and it's considered by the church as relatively evil, but it's a part of the elder gods, and in comparison to them, the church considers Jehovah One relatively good. Church members are descendants of Yetis. Anybody who's not a church member is not a descendant of a Yeti. You can become an ordained Church of the Subgenius minister, and this I didn't know till this research, by doing the following thing. Paying them $35. So I'm really tempted to do this because I'm on so many lists. I'm on another list now because I went to their website to look into this. And I want to read from their website on the page where you can add salvation/membership/ordainment to your cart for $35. This is what it says on that webpage. The Subgenius material has only recently been made public. This is your chance to get in on the ground floor of a huge, lucrative cult. Now, while rates are low. You will then be eligible for all the money, weird sex, and sheer power over others that go with high-ranking membership in the church. And yes, you can perform legal weddings. Overcome shyness and guilt with this fantastic replacement for a huge penis or perfect breasts. Read the Stark Fist of Removal and learn not only the word of Dobbs, but also ways to contact, buy from, and sell to the incredible, yet real, network of sub-geni and sub-simps everywhere. Learn of local revivals, other secret societies, unusual products, and other mutants. This is no fake. Puts you in charge of your life. In charge is in quotations. You'll be ready the next time your face is on fire. Quick con down clampspiracy release. Easy on delicate tissues. No danger of runaway infection. The next time our audience hears from me, I will either be dead or kidnapped, or I will be an ordained Church of Subgenius minister. I feel like giving them $35 is the only two outcomes. So this is fantastic. Like I said before.
You become the descendant of a Yeti?
Yes.
But you're not a descendant of a Yeti beforehand.
No.
This sounds very similar to my Tom Selleck fact.
So some main commandments of the church include shun regular employment, purchase products sold by the church, the church is adamantly for profit, rebel against law and order, exterminate humans who are not descended from Yetis, and exploit fear. Okay, there's a little more I want to get to because this is just so amazing. They have church gatherings. They're called devivals in contrast to, religious revivals. But their major holiday is called X Day, which is July 5th, 1998, and all subsequent July 5ths. But apparently in July 5th, 1988, the text of the Church of the Subgenius says that beings from planet X were supposed to destroy the world and transport church members to a joyful hell. Back in July 5th, 1998, one of their devivals was held at a clothing-optional campground in Sherman, New York, but the world was not destroyed. And the explanation given by the church was that either the people who are, perpetrating the grand conspiracy have lied to humanity about the actual date, to control them, of course, or that X Day will actually occur in 8661, and the year 1998 was read incorrectly.
Oh my God!
This is once again, everybody look into the Church of the Subgenius. It's been around for like 30 plus years, and it is like the most fantastic piece of like irony and making fun of organized religions. It is fantastic, but that plays a huge role in Henry Selick's ideas and the ideas put into this movie. So we had to set that up. Some actual members. There's a list of members you can read online and a few different places. Some of the ones that stood out to me, which I found pretty interesting, Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo, the Whippet guy, David Byrne from the Talking Heads, Paul Rubens, a.k.a. Pee-wee's Playhouse, and apparently the Pee-wee's Playhouse show, has a lot to do with the Church of the Subgenius, which I've never known before. Frank Zappa, the musician, and Zach, I think you're going to like this one, Jonathan Demme.
Of course, full circle.
Yes.
So the Hannibal sandwich is breaking ground into the final episode of the series.
So I think that's the background we needed. We need to talk about the merchandising and Henry Selick directing Nightmare Before Christmas, and we had to talk about the Church of the Subgenius. I'm checking the live listener retention. It seems we are at 0, but let's keep going. Maybe we'll pick somebody back up. So I think where I want to start before we get into this actual movie, and I'm sure we'll start with our top line items, as I think, Zach, you've alluded to already, this movie gets basically unanimous disdain when it comes out in 2001. It cost, $75 million. It makes 10% of that, if 10% of that at the box office. Shit. And people basically say, this is the worst thing that has ever existed in the universe. And like I said at the start, I think this film is grossly misunderstood. I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I mean, we've already covered Sugar and Spice and Saving Silverman. This is absolutely a step up from those.
Excuse me. Hannibal is much worse than this.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've covered 3 movies already that are worse than Monkeybone. But I actually did find one review from the time that was slightly positive. I think I'll read that a little later. But I think it's clear that I think this movie is a masterpiece. I think there's so much going on that I'll divulge into. But I guess it's time for me to, be delusional about the world and let you two say what you think about it. And I'm going to hear something completely different.
Zach, you can kick it off.
I want to gauge my. Ben, I prefer if you go first because I'm going to dial my opinion on this film based on what you have to say because I don't think Rob's going to like where I'm going with this. So I'm just curious, Ben. Like if you
just from you saying that, Zach, I'm not happy.
I know.
All right.
Ben,
so
would you give this a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
If you want me to, I can go first. That's fine.
Please, Ben. Thank you.
All right, so I was just trying to be polite because I feel like sometimes I jump in there and rip the mic out of Zach's hand.
This elevator has already left. This podcast is over, Zach. Stop talking.
This time, instead of Ben ripping the mic out of my hands, I'm thrusting the mic in Ben's face. So the scales are balanced now.
This seems like a little bit like sexual assault, but we'll probably circle back. We haven't
gotten to Rose McGowan yet, Ben. You're jumping the gun.
I tend to do that. All right, so what do I think of this movie? To be completely honest, when I was watching it, at about the halfway point, when they are going to pull the plug on Brendan Fraser, I expected that we were getting towards the end of the movie. And that was not an indication of how much I liked it. I wasn't thinking like, oh, this is taking forever. I actually was really enjoying myself. But it felt like the story was a story about him coming back from a coma, and I was not ready for the fact that the story was about him trying to come back from a coma and then part of his imagination coming back instead. And that, of course, is Monkeybone taking over his body. So there's that. I definitely thought that the movie was going to be over at like 45 minutes. And I was thinking, like, hey, this is pretty short, but it's pretty good. And I liked, I definitely understand why Rob loves this movie in terms of the visuals that we see in downtown.
God, this movie is so beautiful. Like, the art design and the production design, I am so on board near the beginning, maybe not the very beginning, but when Stu gets into downtown in Coma Land, and there's like this downtrodden, disgusting Joe Camel-looking figure that asks him for a cigarette. I'm like, oh, this is my fucking movie right here.
Yeah, well, and I definitely enjoyed that they, like, he gets into Coma Town and he sees a sign that's like psychological baggage.
Yep.
And he opens it and there's like a bunch of drawings, like I saw Roadkill die and something about a Minotaur and like, so I guess he's a lot of psychological baggage, and he, I think as they mentioned, was a nightmare factory or something like that.
Yep.
At some point. So I definitely I kind of liked the touches on mental health that they had in this movie, because they definitely discussed Brendan Fraser being really depressed beforehand, and then kind of coming around, and him finding the Julie character who I guess in his eyes saved his life to some degree by helping him get out of his depressive funk, and that that was nice, touching, whatever. I loved his sister, who was just ready as fuck to kill him. I thought that was pretty funny. And Brendan Fraser did the most convincing monkey I've ever seen. He absolutely nailed pretending to be a monkey.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things. Like, this movie is the testament as to how good of an actor Brendan Fraser is. Like, the Mummy movies are a testament to how good of a stunt performer he is. This movie is how good of an actor he is, because he has two roles in this movie.
Oh yeah, and I definitely thought he nailed being a monkey. That was pretty dope. The nightmare juice was a little bit comical. I thought it was funny that they called it nightmare juice. Like, it had a different name that they'd said earlier, Hexa something or other, and then they just reverted to calling it nightmare juice, which I don't know. It felt a little gimmicky. Isn't quite the right word. Just like cartoonish.
Sure.
But overall, I went into it expecting really not to like it much at all, because I'm not a huge fan of the kind of visual effects that Downtown was built upon. Mm-hmm. But it actually, I liked it fine. It didn't really bother me as much as some things have in that same kind of realm, in terms of being shown things that are uncomfortable to look at and then having to look at them for a long period of time. So that actually was kind of relieving. And then I would say the latter half of the movie, I definitely did not enjoy as much as the part where he's in downtown for, there's that whole journey where he's in a coma and he's like trying to get his exit pass and stuff. And I definitely kind of enjoyed the symbolism in that part of the story. And I would say that some of that kind of gets lost in the second half of the movie, and it goes more towards this direct conflict thing, and they were kind of leaning on what's the gymnast Chris Cassette?
Chris Kattan, yep.
Chris Kattan. They were, and I have to say he did a phenomenal job running around like his neck was broken.
Oh my god, I am so glad you bring that up, because I think we can all agree that physical acting is so amazing from Chris Kattan.
Yes.
And it is also the craziest thing that Chris Kattan plays someone with a broken neck in this movie, and 3 months after this movie comes out, he legitimately breaks his neck on set of SNL. Zach, did you know about this? Chris Kattan breaking his neck while doing a parody of the Golden Girls on SNL?
Oh my god.
I didn't know it was the Golden Girls, but I wasn't aware that he broke his neck.
It was the Golden Girls. It's fucking ridiculous. Because I remember when Chris Kattan was on like Dancing with the Stars, everybody was making fun of him because they were like, he's so stiff. And he's like, because I've had 5 spinal surgeries in my life. Like, this is insane. Like, why are you making fun of me for being stiff? You know?
Damn.
But I find that insane. But yeah, the physical acting, like, I put his physical acting in this movie up there with like Vincent D'Onofrio as the Bug in Men in Black. Like, when he's wearing, like, the Bug is wearing the guy's skin and in the whole movie, basically, and doing all that crazy, like, moving around. Oh, my God, it's so goddamn good.
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to call that out. And then, I mean, we have that kind of, like, climactic scene where they're, like, floating around on this balloon, and then the cop's like, I can get it down, and he shoots it, and I was like, well, he just murdered 2 people. So that was kind of fun. But again, like, the last half of the movie gets a little bit more cartoonish than the first half, despite the fact that the first half is the half filled with all the visuals that don't make any sense.
I'm glad you say that, Ben, because that is what I love about the second half, and I would say that the second half is infinitely more dense with symbolism than the first half. Okay. And that is what I will be explaining in my TED Talk today.
Well, and I'm excited to hear it, because I did only watch this movie once. I only had time to watch it once since I watched Willy's Wonderland.
Ben was like, I gotta get my Nicolas Cage fix.
I'm a little disappointed I didn't get to hear him talk, but that's neither here nor there. But in terms of like the symbolism of the coma world, I mean, I'm sure that we'll talk about that some too throughout the rest of the episode. So I don't want to spoil any of it.
Sure.
But basically the gist of my take is that I didn't hate it and I expected to hate it. So I guess it's pretty good.
Nice.
And actually, I at the end of it, I think I looked at my fiance and said that was a lot better than I expected it to be. I actually liked it. So
that's always good, That's always a good thing. So I guess, Zach, that makes you the Justin of this episode. Feel free. You're gonna say, didn't like it, didn't laugh once. I gotta go now. No, Zach, I'm very interested to hear, because we, like you said before, we have very similar history in finding this movie back in the day, and I know we were both excited to talk about it. But clearly, as you said, you've seen it a lot less than me. I'm interested to see what you think about it now. So I guess the way to frame this, at least what I'm gaining from how you've talked already, at what point of Monkeybone did you pause the movie, and what movie did you put on to come down from it, if that's the right term?
that is actually surprisingly the right term for this. No, what happened was, as we've already alluded to in the last weird going through the turnstiles of previous week's recordings, we were I think, obviously Ben excluded, Rob and I were so excited to talk about this. I even signed up for a Netflix DVD membership just so I could get a good copy of this to watch. Even I think Rob and I had discussions about even buying this on Blu-ray, because we were that tempted to get this in the best quality available. And so I got the DVD because I didn't want to delve into my VHS version. And I think I got through the opening of the animated short.
Okay. And
I'm like, oh God, I'm kind of disgusted by this movie, just how ugly it is. Intentionally ugly, but
sure,
it's so ugly. And then as the movie progressed, I'm like, oh, but there's some gags. I remember Monkeybone rubbing his ass on on the teacher's arm flaps and things like that. And I'm like, as the movie progresses, I'm going through these moments I remember loving, and I'm like, this isn't funny. Don't get me wrong, I chuckled a couple times, but as the film progressed, I became more and more just kind of oh God, visually upset, and just I found this movie almost, again, visually abhorrent, and I admire the style Henry Selick was going for, but I just found it so unattractive and unappealing. And then we get to Chris Kattan, and I'm like, oh, his 5 minutes of screen time is infinitely better than everything else in the movie combined. But I do have to say, Bob Odenkirk has one of the greatest lines in this entire film, where they're trying to get into the banquet, and the security guards are like, you need invitations. And he goes, screw your invitations, we have diplomas.
Yeah.
And I love that line so much. I am going to use that every chance I get now. I try to get in somewhere that I can. But other than that, I was so disappointed. This is almost Amanda Show level of disappointment, where I'm just God, the early 2000s. Oh no, it's not. No, it's not. I am just I was almost I am so disheartened by how much I dislike this movie now.
That is well, as I think as Ben has said before, Zach, you're allowed to be wrong. It's okay. We still love you.
No, I hope you can talk me into loving this movie, because there is really nothing going for it other than Chris Kattan and that one line of dialogue. I think Brendan Fraser is just sleepwalking through this movie, and even his Monkeybone performance from the latter half is just so goofy and feels so disconnected from the John Turturro voice performance combined with the stop motion performance. I find this movie horribly disjointed.
I'm glad you used that term, Zach, because as I will explain in the next 6 hours, I think that's the point.
But okay, this is the thing where I want you to explain, because apparently when this is another one of those films that I love bringing up to Rob, and I'm going to ask the phrase that pays, Rob, who owns this movie?
Oh, God.
Who owns this movie, Rob?
We do. The fans. The members of the Church of the Subgenius. The descendants of Yetis.
But in the real world, Rob, who owns this movie?
The mouse.
and not the mouse jail guard, but the evil mouse.
The evil mouse. Ho ho! We put Monkeybone in the flames. We burned every print of it.
Yes, because it's funny because I know, like I said, Rob and I were discussing this movie on Blu-ray, and I think I made the comment to him when we were talking about this a month ago. I'm like, it's oh wow, Rob, it's going for anywhere from $50 to $70 for a used copy. And I'm like, I just don't like spending that sort of money because when something becomes that high on the secondhand market, I'm just it's due for a re-release. And then I looked into who owned this, and I'm like, oh, it's Disney. Mm-hmm. Disney's A, never going to re-release this, and B, never going to license it to anybody like a Scream Factory or any of these boutique labels. They're just gonna smother it like Freaked. And I'm just like, oh, this movie's never gonna find any sort of genuine audience like so many other movies have, because Disney just doesn't care about their catalog anymore.
Yeah, I know. We were both shocked a few weeks ago when we were talking about, when we were getting ready for this Monkeybone episode, that we were shocked that it was on HBO Max. And it's kind of that seems to me that Disney's just somehow unaware that it's on HBO Max, it slipped through the cracks.
I don't think it slipped through the cracks. It's just, it probably came with a bundle of Fox films, probably from a pre-existing contract they signed. And once that contract lapses, it'll just disappear into the ether. It might be available for video on demand, like on iTunes and certain places, when you spend $4 and you get it.
Sure.
But I think when it comes to just streaming it on a streaming service, it will virtually disappear.
Yeah, and it's such a bummer because that's the whole Disney thing. I mean, if you're not watching a Marvel movie, a Star Wars movie, they basically don't care about you. Exactly.
But I guess this goes back to my question, though, is that I had heard when 20th Century Fox, because apparently this was produced as an independent film and it was purchased by Fox, and Fox butchered it in editing. That's why certain characters just disappear. They come out of nowhere with no context, like Megan Mullally's character, Giancarlo Esposito's character. I looked into it very passively and couldn't find any concrete information on what the, I guess, in lowercase quotation marks, director's cut of this looked like. Mm-hmm. Do you have any idea on how this was butchered in editing? Well, that's the only thing I can find.
It definitely was changed up, and I read, and I took some notes on some extended and deleted scenes and stuff like that. The thing that I've found, well, I guess this brings up to another thing. This wasn't an IMDb trivia fact. This was actually something that I found on Instagram. So stick with me. Everybody stick with me, because this is where it gets crazy. So apparently, in 2016, Rose McGowan, who plays Kitty in this movie, she posted an image of her in costume from the set of Monkeybone on Instagram and basically wrote this paragraph that said, Monkeybone could have been so much better if they didn't fire Henry Selick halfway through filming.
Really?
This did not happen, as far as I can tell. I have found no other indication that he was fired, even to the extent that in interviews with him from around the time of Monkeybone and during the Coraline years, that he says the studio got their grubby hands in Monkeybone, but he still considers it his movie.
Okay.
So I have no fucking idea what Rose McGowan's on about, and I just got canceled because Rose McGowan, now that I said her name on this podcast, I think we're going to get canceled for real this time. So, Zach, did you read anything or see anything about him getting fired?
Now that you bring it up, I remember when that happened a few years ago, and that was one of those things I remember that. And again, Rose McGowan, kind of insane. It's kind of hard to judge her. I think she's someone that lives in the moment, so I don't think she's intentionally misleading anybody. She just kind of says what she's feeling at the moment. She's kind of the antithesis to this, to the thing of facts don't care about your feelings. From what I remember, that's the thing though, is that it's weird that how we look at when directors are fired off films today is much different than how they were done back in the day.
Sure.
There's a good chance that probably Henry Selick was probably I don't know if he was fired as in like he was dismissed. He might have been neutered by the studio. Because everybody forgets that like producers come in and just take control. Like, It's not like as if like Henry Selick gets a phone call halfway through production is that like get off the lot, like Richard Stanley style.
Yeah,
I don't think it's as dramatic as that. Is what happens is that the studio gets daily. They look at what they're seeing. They don't like what the product is, and so they start sending executives and like production assistants in that micromanage everything. So there's a good possibility is that like it's like the stories you hear about like, oh God, what's his name? Like David Fincher on Alien Cubed, in that like he's there on set, but there's always somebody watching everything he does. And after a while, you just get so, I guess, a creative, you get so frustrated with being hamstrung decision after decision that you just say, you know what? You just do what they say. And I think that's maybe what she meant. I don't think he was dismissed from the production, but I think he probably just kind of almost gave up. That's my perspective.
I can totally see where you're coming from, and that's totally what I believe as well. What she meant by that. I don't think he was fired in the way that anybody who reads that Instagram post is going to take the word fired to mean, especially people not in the industry. But like I said, everything I read that Henry Selick has said about this movie, when there's actually not that much, he still considers it his film, and it really was the issues came in editing, like you said, Zach, not really during principal photography, filming, anything like that. The thing that I found most interesting is that, when someone asked Selick about this in 2009, basically, so of course this will come up a lot more on the Coraline episode, but this movie and how the studio gets its hands in it, Henry Selick gets angry about that and leaves Hollywood to go to Leica in Portland, Oregon, and that's the animation studio where he can actually do his own stop motion. That's how Coraline gets made. But when he was being interviewed in 2009 and asked about, that change going from Hollywood to Portland and an independent studio, he says that, it's still his movie. The studio did things to it, and it gave him that experience of, being manhandled, I guess, by a studio. But he still considers it his movie. It's still the movie that, him and the screenwriter, Sam Hamm, wanted to make, or they got those ideas across. Which is why I think everything I'm going to talk about with what I think this movie's going for is still meaningful. If he had been fired, or if he had been removed from this film, or, told what to do a lot earlier on, then this would just be a completely different story. But from everything I've read, even from interviews with Sam Hamm about this movie, that this was what they were going for. Sure, it got edited and cut up, and it wasn't exactly their vision, but they say they got across what they wanted to.
But this is another a cinematic philosophical question, and this is going to definitely play like in the next month or two. And Rob's going to hate me for making this comparison. He's going to hate me for it. Is 2017's Justice League Zack Snyder's movie?
No, it's Warner Brothers' movie.
Okay, there you go.
Sure.
And I think that's what Rose McGowan was getting at.
Absolutely. But
I think that's what it is. Is that like whose movie is it at the end of the day? Is that like it comes down to the ideas that like sure, like all of these movies are the studio's properties. They funded it. It's their movie. But there is that line where you have and as much as it kills me to say it, but like I guess Zack Snyder is an auteur. Lord help me for putting those two things in the same sentence. But like Henry Selick is definitely an auteur filmmaker.
Yes. And
that's the thing, is that like we don't like there's no like it's his movie, but we also don't know how much of it was bastardized. Like Henry Selick, like I said, there's not a lot of information on this movie.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part.
And that's the problem, is that we really have no like, at least with things like Justice League, there's at least like production stills, there's early marketing that at least give us like a keyhole's view into what the film looked like in its original state. Whereas with Monkeybone, the closest thing I could find was that like in Toy Fair, like 2001, there was a lot of merchandise on display that I did not get made.
Yep.
And that just makes me wonder, is like, and this goes back to like Cartoon Network, is that like, if you look at all of Henry Selick's films, none of them are really like, they're all weird, but they're never raunchy.
Oh, sure.
And that's what I'm wondering with this. I wonder if the studio deliberately made this more raunchy. And that's why maybe like Henry Selick, for the most part, is a rather wholesome filmmaker.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I wonder, is that, like, considering the big merchandise push there was with this initially, and the fact that, like, there was probably advertisements purchased on Cartoon Network for that reason. Because, like, if you look at, like, a lot of the non-raunchy, like, humor and just tone to this film, it feels very early 2000s, late 90s Cartoon Network-esque. This fits in tonally perfectly with, like, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh, yeah.
Like, stuff like that, like, on a comedic level. And that's why I wonder if Selick's original version of this film or intent was something much more maybe odd, but nowhere near as raunchy and, like, unnecessarily sexual.
I'm totally with you. This is, even though Henry Selick is not in exile like Martin Brest is, you know, he definitely hasn't been around as much as he was back in the day. I wish we had some more information about this. So Henry Selick, we know you listen to this. Get on here, talk to us. But I'm glad you bring up the raunchiness of this movie, because that definitely plays into what I think this film is going for. So you set the stage well with that. I did want to mention, in that same interview where he says it is his film and he gets the final product does get the ideas across that he wants, he does say something very interesting, that originally he wanted the entirety of Downtown and, like, Comaland and, you know, Death's Realm to be stop motion. And he wanted Brendan Fraser like a stop motion, like a silicone version. And the studio went, no, we paid full price for Brendan Fraser. The audience is going to see their face. His face in live action form. And Henry Selick did say, he's like, that's when I should have walked away from the film, and that it took him a lot longer to realize that he didn't want to be in Hollywood anymore. So that was interesting to me, that Henry Selick did have some doubts going into it, but once again, I think that plays into my take on this movie. But still very interesting that he wanted all of Downtown to be stop motion.
But even beyond that, though, like, if you look at a lot of the characters in this film and how they're, like, created, like, yes, you like Monkeybone stop motion, but, like, a lot of characters just feel like almost like half-baked or almost undercooked. Like, you have, like, a lot of the Downtown characters are, like, weird, like, almost like Disney World, Disneyland characters where they have, like, the oversized, like, head.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have, like Giancarlo Esposito's, like, Hypnos, which is just his head, like, crudely, like, just, like, plastered on top of, like, a little person's body, like, in a costume. And then the most egregious effect is what the bartender at the bar, and he's just a CGI head.
Yes.
Like that early 2000s CGI head, and I'm just like it doesn't make sense. Like, you have all these different animation styles, and the only ones that are genuinely convincing is it, like, the roadkill, the Sphinx heads, and Monkeybone, and that's, like, Henry Selick's trademark. Everything else just feels weirdly out of place. Even, like, the bee woman that's laying in bed with Hypnos, it's just like it's just a person, like, in a poorly made costume. And
I love the bee woman, Zach. Okay,
that's fine, but, like, you gotta call a spade a spade.
Well, sure.
And
it's
that,
also
like,
just it's a bad, like, copy paste of the spider from James and the Giant Peach. Yeah, that's how I took it.
But that's the thing, though, is that, like, Henry Selick is known for someone that's not to cut corners. And that just, like, everything with Hypnos feels like it was added after the fact. Everything involving that character feels like it was shoehorned in.
I hear what you're saying, Zach. Once again, this is all going to come up when I talk about what I think this movie's going for.
I didn't feel that way about Hypnos, to be completely honest. But I did think the bee was horrendous. Like, it just didn't look good.
Oh, the bee's great. The bee is we need the bee woman just in reality. A wasp bee, whatever, that big, flying around and looking like that. That's what the world needs right now, everybody.
Didn't they try making a movie out of that with, like, Jerry Seinfeld?
The bee movie.
It cost Jeffrey Katzenberg like $200 million. Didn't they try that and it didn't work?
Have either of you actually seen Bee Movie?
No.
I am not kidding when I say that the second half of that movie is a courtroom thriller.
It is a courtroom thriller.
That's what it's supposed to be, at least.
I know.
It's the weirdest goddamn thing.
Have you ever heard the story behind that movie?
I've seen it and I've read a lot about it, but it was a while ago.
What it was that like this was back like in the early 2000s. It's like 2000. From what I remember, it's like 2002, maybe 2003. Jerry Seinfeld and Steven Spielberg were like having dinner. They got drunk, and Jerry Seinfeld's like, "Wouldn't it be great if I was an actual bee?" And that was the entire like gag, like Jerry Seinfeld is a bee. And Steven Spielberg literally like wrote a blank check and handed it to Jerry Seinfeld. It's like, "Here you go, make the movie." And Jeffrey Katzenberg was just like, "What is going on?" And like you have all the stuff that like where Jerry Seinfeld actually said like when they greenlit this, I did not know what to do. He's like, it was a joke they took literally. And he's like, and like he just didn't know what to do. And like, and apparently like he almost shadow directed that entire film. He micromanaged every level of it, even down to the marketing. Like a lot of the marketing is like credited to him. Cause like it was like one of the earliest examples of like viral marketing. Cause like they had him like doing all these weird little vignettes for the internet. And like apparently he micromanaged that movie, and even though that movie like barely made its money back, it's like he's somewhat responsible for like salvaging that movie, because they said like, oh, if it wasn't for him, this thing would have been nothing short of a disaster.
Oh God,
because he just had enough like what cinematic, I don't even know what to call it, just like star power, inertia, that he carried that thing over the finish line. But like that's a conversation for another day. But like apparently thank you, Ben. Is that like he, in a weird way, he's responsible for its like inception. He also felt like responsible, just like trying to like help everybody involved. Like he's like, I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm so sorry.
I just that whole story, I've definitely heard something along those lines back in the day. I'm just imagining Jerry Seinfeld at dinner with Spielberg and being like, you know, he's what, a few glasses of wine in, and he's like, it's a B movie, but I'm a bee. Do you get it? and it's just like, that's the pitch. And then he's something like, look at this horrendous creature I've created. I guess I gotta watch it grow up. Oh God, B movie. Courtroom thriller. Check it out, everybody. I think you can watch it on YouTube, but it's like, 40 seconds long, because they do that thing where it's like the movie starts regularly, but then every time they say the word B, it speeds up. And they say it so much it gets to like 40 seconds.
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh God. So yeah, B movie. Also something to talk about, Hypnos. I am just so thankful for this movie that there is something in existence, barely in existence as we talked about with Disney, where Giancarlo Esposito is doing something other than playing Gus Fring. I'm just so happy he's not doing the only thing he's known for these days. It was so refreshing to see Giancarlo Esposito do anything other than just like stare at the camera with a gravelly voice. It was so refreshing. What's his name in Mandalorian? Moff Daniel, matter. Whatever it is.
Yes. His name is Moff Hypnos. But like to be fair, you can definitely see like the seeds of that like thing that he'd be like, what's the word, pigeonholed into.
Oh, sure.
It's there. Like it's just waiting. I know Rob's made that almost into like a meme now, where it's like everything Giancarlo Esposito does is like somehow grounded in just like that gravelly bad guy persona. And I'm like, it's there, Rob. It's there even in this 20 years later. It's
there, but I'm very happy to see that there are other things there as well. His best performance is Do the Right Thing, okay? The Spike Lee movie. He's fantastic in that movie. Everybody check that out. It's better than B movie. Okay. I think I also want to talk about the one positive, semi-positive review, I should say, that I found for this movie around the time it came out. Because like we said, it got panned. Nobody saw this. Everybody hated it for some reason. But the positive review, once again, semi-positive review that I found is from A.O. Scott in the New York Times. And in this review, he actually does reference Saving Silverman, where he basically says, God, like, at least this movie isn't Saving Silverman. But there were two quotes that really stood out to me about from his review. And the first one is, "Coherence is not among its virtues, but its overstuffed look and lurching rhythm result from an effort by Mr. Selick and the screenwriter Sam Hamm to make room for too many good ideas rather than struggling to compensate, as is too often the case for having none at all." And that's one of the first things that I really like about this movie and started to pick up on years ago when I started to watch it a lot, is that there is a lot going on in this movie. And I think we can all agree that if we compare this to, say, Saving Silverman from last week, This movie at least has something going on in it, or there's something it's trying to do. Saving Silverman is much more vacuous, and I totally approve of that, agree with it, and get where he's coming from in this review. Another quote that I wanted to read from him, he says, "Sure, Monkeybone is a bit of a mess, but the unconscious is by definition a disorderly place, which few movies explore with such mischievous insight. Imagine if Louis Buñuel had returned from the grave and hooked up with the Farrelly brothers, with access to $50 million worth of foam, rubber, and modeling clay. That's what dreams are made of." I think that's like the very end of the review, and by the time I was reading it, I was like pumping my fist. I was like, fuck yeah, A.O. Scott! Like, you figured it out. This is what dreams are made of.
Louis Buñuel combined with the Farley brothers.
Yes.
That conjures up in that's that might be profound.
I know, it's a fantastic
might be the best
review.
way to describe this movie.
And I'm not a huge fan of A.O. Scott from other reviews I've read of him, but it's like I'm reading that and I'm like, God, there's still hope. Well, this was from 2001, so back then there was still hope for film criticism. Now it's all the idiots on YouTube going, I have a bad microphone. So I had to bring that up because there was at least one semi-positive review of this, which I thought did not exist at the time. So, okay. Are we ready? Are we ready to get into what this movie is actually about? Okay? Are you ready?
Definitely.
Hold on,
I'm intrigued.
I'm gonna set up my soapbox real quick. So, this movie, I think there's a lot of different ways that I've interpreted over the years, and I want to talk about all of them. But I think at the first and foremost, the thing that I take from this movie now and why I love it so much is that it is a commentary on the idea of if it is possible to separate the art from the artist, the created product from the creator. And I think, well, first I should say, because I say it a lot in more modern times, whenever I say separate the art from the artist, I usually say that when I'm talking about separating enjoying something from the person who created it when the person did something bad. That's not what I'm saying here. Go back and listen to our R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet episode where I talk about separating the art from the artist. Can we enjoy R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet, the 2-hour hip-opera, even though R. Kelly is a objective monster? That's a different discussion. That's not what I'm saying here. I think this movie is getting at the idea of separating the art from the artist in context of if a creator has success and becomes known for that success, how can that creator break away from what the industry and what the masses, humanity, the pinks, as they're called in the Church of the Subgenius, believe that creator to be? And I think this is fueled by Henry Selick's own experience working on The Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach. I think this is from a very personal place. So that's my big thought about this movie, that it is getting at in a lot of different ways, the idea of Brendan Fraser as Stu in this movie. He creates Monkeybone, and the industry is trying to bleed him dry of Monkeybone, of merchandising, of everything. And I think the quote that really encapsulates it, even though we're going to just dissect this movie and how I think everything in this film gets at that idea, the quote that I started with is exactly that. When Monkeybone takes over Stu's body, and he's talking about merchandising and making money and, just living in the real world and doing everything that he wants to do and not be confined by his creator and what his creator wants to do with him, he says that the merchandising synergizes the religion. And he's talking about the religion, the grand conspiracy that I mentioned with the Church of the Subgenius, being the industry, being modern commercialism. And I think that this is really hits home, and why I talked so much about the Church of the Subgenius, and will continue to in this episode, because Brendan Fraser as Stu Miley and his girlfriend Bridget Fonda, they are the descendants of the Yetis. They are the only true members of the Church of the Subgenius. Everybody else is a pink, and a pink is what the members of the Church of the Subgenius call people who are buying into the conspiracy. Everybody else is trying just to go through the system and get enjoyment and throw it away. That's what this movie's about. Every part of the movie gets at this idea. It is wonderfully fantastic. I think, as I said at the beginning, it is so fundamentally misunderstood by people that it is almost criminal. That you get people back in 2001 watch this movie and go, It's weird, it's incoherent, it's not funny, there's no meaning to it whatsoever. But I'm here to tell everybody, no, there is so much more going on, and I think the disjointedness that you mentioned, Zach, the raunchiness that we get in this movie, the incohesion, it not being funny, I think almost on purpose at times, is the point of this movie to show that the religion of modern commercialism and the industry is just a vacuous money-making machine giving instant gratification to the underlings of that system. Is everybody still on board? Oh, God, the listener count is at -1. I didn't know that was possible. I think Skype has stopped listening.
I mean,
even the government stopped listening at this point.
NSA is like, okay, he's going to be doing this for a few hours. I can go on lunch break.
Oh, God, even Mark Zuckerberg's like, I'm out. We don't need this. We don't need to data mine this. God. Oh my God, Rob. I don't know where to begin. Like, I get what you're saying. I just don't know if there's that sort of profoundness to this. I just has Henry Selick ever leaned into anything that you're saying? Has he ever given an interview where he lends credence to any of this, or even the producer? Like, who's the writer?
Sam Hamm. Sam Hamm was the
Sam
writer.
Hamm. Excuse me.
There is an interview with Sam Hamm that gets at this a little bit. The Henry Selick stuff that I read about this, or has formed this over the years, is not in relation to Monkeybone. It's in relation to his feelings after The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay, that's fair. Because, we might be jumping the gun a little bit when it comes to, delving into, the persona and psyche of Henry Selick. But, if you don't mind, Rob, because obviously you are a low-key expert on all this, is that, obviously, he did not have the best experience with Nightmare Before Christmas, but James and the Giant Peach was successful, from my understanding, and that's also a Disney film.
Critically successful. It did not make its money back at all. No, it made less than its production budget.
I hated that movie.
Oh, that's a hot take. I love that movie. Well, I guess also should say I think Henry Selick has the greatest career in history. It's 4 perfect movies.
What was his takeaway from James and Giant Peach?
His hatred for Disney, first of all, because he had See, Zach, this is... Okay, we'll get to it. Tune in 6 years from now when the Fort year is over, when we do the rest of Henry Selick's filmography. We'll rehash all of this. But he has a 3-picture deal with Disney. Nightmare Before Christmas comes out. Nightmare Before Christmas is a success financially. He, I think 2 years later, does James and the Giant Peach, which is pushed by Disney. Henry Selick gets his freedom to do things because, of course, a lot of that movie's stop motion. It's kind of like what he wanted to do with Monkeybone, where it starts and ends in live action, but the bulk of the movie is stop motion and animated. That does not do well financially. And Disney says, okay, you don't have to make another movie for us. We want you to keep being, or go back to being, an in-betweener on random animated projects we have. And if you go from director to back to an in-betweener, which is you're animating the motion between key frames of things, that's basically like, oh, you were the king, and now you're a peasant. And he goes, fuck you. That is the most offensive thing anybody's ever said to me. And that's why he doesn't make a movie until Monkeybone 6 years later, and it's outside of Disney.
Okay. I did not know that.
And then also, of course, after Monkeybone, he hates the Hollywood studio system. He goes to Laika in Portland, like I said. Coraline is basically the most well-received animated film in years. It's the first stereoscopic animated film, which is one of the best uses of 3D in a film ever, I think. That movie's so successful, Disney picks him up again. He kind of says, well, okay, maybe they respect me a little bit more. They don't just see me as a workhorse like I was. Because it really seems like Henry Selick at Disney, of course, in the 90s, you might know more about this, Zach, we were getting to the end of the reign of, the 9 Old Men. And I think one of the 9 Old Men was a mentor for Henry Selick.
Probably.
And when you were getting at the end of the 9 Old Men, Disney was basically like, who the fuck does stop motion? Do things cheaper and less time-consuming, and Henry Selick hated that. But after he does Coraline, he goes back to Disney to work on The Shadow King. Disney lets him go a year into production on fully stop-motion movie The Shadow King, and then Disney goes, guess what? We don't want to do this anymore. You're canceled. And that's why Henry Selick has not made a movie.
What year was that? What year was that?
I believe it was 2012 was when it got canceled. If I'm remembering correctly, I did not write that.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. Because that's when they started. Because that was That was a weird time for Disney because that's when they finally started to give up on original movies because they finally had their blockbusters all lined up. That makes perfect sense because that lines up with they gave up on John Carter. There was a year after the Mars Needs Moms disaster. Marvel was taking off, and they were in the process of buying Star Wars. So, that makes sense for them. They didn't need to be experimental anymore. The time, even though I'm not sure the exact timing on that, it fits that 2011 to 2013 time period where they kind of just gave up on trying to be original anymore.
Yes. So that is definitely some important context for Henry Selick. Of course, the Coraline episode is going to be a doozy. Just what I think the message of Coraline is so fantastic about the Hollywood system as a whole, as well. But I guess I also should say I think all 4 of Henry Selick's movies have this deep meaning to them, like I'm explaining with Monkeybone. But I think that context that is important for this movie, and why I think that so much of this Church of the Subgenius idea is put by Henry Selick and Sam Hamm into this movie because of what he went through on The Nightmare Before Christmas and James 9 Peach with Disney. And I definitely see it as, one of the raunchier scenes in the movie is when Monkeybone in Stu's body tries to have sex with Bridget Fonda. And Monkeybone doesn't really know what to do because he's never had a penis before. Bridget Fonda is clearly like something's wrong here. And that scene is played very raunchy. We get even the needle drops of sexy time songs and stuff like that. He's jumping around. We get this totally obnoxious shot where the camera is pointing up, Brendan Fraser looking down and just shaking his taint right at the camera. It is so over the top. And I see that. I feel like in 2001, people saw that and they were like, what is this? This is obnoxious. This is over the top. This is grotesque. Whatever they said, they wanted to throw it away. That is literally the point of this movie, is that the creator makes something, is so imbued by that notion of what he created by the masses that it almost takes over that idea. Your creation wants to violate your loved ones. It wants to ruin your personal relationships. That's the whole point of that. And I think a lot of Monkeybone being in Stu's body is that he is really just, basking in the riches of the grand conspiracy. It's fantastic.
Oh, God damn it, Rob. You're actually making me kind of appreciate this movie now.
There is so much, like I said, there's so much going on in this movie. It is unbelievable. So I think to make this not a solo Rob episode, if any of you guys want to talk about specific scenes, which I definitely have a lot of, we can talk about them, talk about how fucking great they are and how good they look, Zach. You're wrong once again, but you're allowed to be wrong. And then we can talk about how it relates to the bigger message of this movie.
I mean, I guess the thing I have to say is, at the end, the thing you're saying about, the art separated from the artist, that's 100% of Whoopi Goldberg smashes Monkeybone into Brendan Fraser at the end. And he's just he's back in your head where he belongs.
I love that idea that it's the creator, the end of this movie is the creator has to come to terms with what they've created. They have to find a way to deal with it. And dealing with it is not giving into the commercial merchandising machine like his manager wants. It's actually finding something else to help you cope, which is the other descendant of Yeti in this movie, Bridget Fonda. So I do have to say, in terms of things that actually did make me laugh out loud, I love the scene where the Monkeybone inflatable raft goes off in their car, which causes the accident, which puts him in the coma. While it's holding the gas pedal down and they're going backwards across the street, Bridget Fonda has the line where she goes, "Stop the car!" And Brendan Fraser goes, "That's a great idea. I wish I'd thought of it." I would totally be snarky in a car accident situation as well, I like to think. I
am flummoxed at how to respond to
Zach's
Rob's
I need to process. But isn't that even wonderful with this idea that I've set up? I love that the reason Brendan Fraser goes into the coma, why Stu goes into a coma, is because his car is literally jam-packed with Monkeybone merchandise. The machine, his agent in this case, is just giving him so much useless shit that he doesn't want involved in any part of. It's all the things that are being just put on him and gutted from him regarding Monkeybone, and that's what causes his coma. It's wonderful.
No, like that part of it, I get that part of your thesis, and that's what might make this movie. Again, if that was Henry Selick's intent, I would 100% see this as kind of like a movie that's just been kind of like weirdly out of focus for the last 20 years. But at the same time, though, like I don't know, like it just there's some parts of this that feel like Brendan Fraser's performance as what are we gonna call this? When Stu Miley's body is possessed, what are we calling it when Monkeybone takes control of him?
In my notes, I referred to that as Monkeybone in Stu's body.
Okay,
I figured that was easy. That was easy for me to type
wordy.
at least.
Okay, but like that's the thing. I as a concept,
what about Monkey Stew?
Really
How about Monkey Stew? Is that better for you guys?
Monkey Stew, there you go.
Okay. I love how both
Stone?
of you were like, that's a little wordy, after I just was like, I have 5 pages of notes and I just talked for like 6 minutes straight.
No, because you had a point.
Monkey Stone.
Monkey Stone.
Oh my god. But like that's the thing though. Is like if the idea is that like your creation possesses you and kind of dictates your future and your actions, I like that. Mm-hmm. But that feels more as an interpretation than it does like it was part of the plan. That feels
I know
like
what you're
somebody's
saying, but
like analysis that's being projected onto the film.
I totally get what you're saying, and I agree. It absolutely could be. I've seen this movie probably more times than anyone in existence. And so I've had so much time to think about it, and I totally agree with you that it could be just projection, but I'm totally taking the stance on this episode, and if I ever talk about Monkeybone to anybody in my real life, that this is all we have. You know? I invite Henry Selick to come on and say, okay, Rob, you're fucking wrong. It's a good thought, but you're wrong. I'm still waiting if Frank Ocean wants to tell me that about Endless, but I'm with you, Zach. I totally acknowledge what you're saying.
But my thing is like, considering that you're the Henry Selick expert amongst the three of us, is there any common themes from his filmography of all 4 films that from the other 3 that can be extrapolated to this?
Oh, absolutely. I think all 4 films get at this almost this exact same idea. Nightmare Before Christmas is about a creator switching fields and taking over somebody's work and what that means for the product. James and the Giant Peach is about facing your fears and changing careers. This movie I've described. And Coraline is literally about, do you give up what makes you your personality to have an easier life? I think there's a very clear connection between all 4 of Henry Selick's movies, which is why everybody has to tune into the Henry Selick series 6 years from now.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not arguing. I just feel that like this feels like a very similar argument that I have when we talk about Alien Cubed, in that like this feels like almost an unfinished product, and it's hard for me to evaluate it as part of an auteur's like filmography.
Sure,
I feel like I would be doing the filmmaker an injustice by like analyzing it that way, because there's just like too many inconsistencies, like more on a character level. Because like I said, like a lot of characters disappear in this movie. They show up, they have great importance in the plot, and they disappear into thin air.
Well,
like is there an explanation for that? Like as to where like Megan Mullally goes, her thing of like having to kill Stu, Hypnos, Kitty, like is there any sort of rationalization as to where those characters go?
Well, my thought is, and this is definitely going to get into something that I totally concede with my thoughts about this movie, is that, you know, there is a lot of issues with the surface level narrative, and I get what you're saying. You know, Megan Mullally as the sister is a great example. She basically doesn't exist after he wakes up from the coma. So there are inconsistencies on the superficial level, the first level, but I think there's a lot of importance to those characters in the subtext of the film, or what this idea they're getting at. Megan Mullally's the example, which I want to talk about him being in a coma for such a short part of this movie in a second. But I definitely see the members of Downtown, a lot of the tertiary characters that we get, you know, after Monkeybone comes around, Hypnos also being so kind of, you know, oh, they're in it for 1 second, they disappear for so long, that type of thing. That is definitely what I think, you know, Henry Selick and Sam Hamm are saying, that in this rendition of the notion or the ideas of the Church of the Subgenius, those perpetrating the grand conspiracy is the industry. It's the Hollywood studio system. Maybe it's Disney from what we talked about. It's some big overarching controller or creator. And when you have characters that, kind of pop in, pop out, you have disjointedness, like you mentioned before, you have inconsistencies in storytelling, that doesn't matter to the people creating it. They just want to make sure that the audience is happy. And the example that I think of is, or maybe not even happy, the audience has something to do, some reason to give them money, the next product comes out. And the scene in the movie that makes me think of this the most is that when Monkeybone steals the exit pass from Stu, he knocks him out with the monkey wrench, which is just clever writing if I've ever seen it. A monkey knocks somebody out with a monkey wrench. You can't beat that, guys. No. But after he knocks him out, it's revealed that everybody in downtown is cheering for him. And that was Hypnosis' plan all along. They were like, we're here to use you. It doesn't matter what you do or how inconsistent something is. We just need the next product. We want to, send him to the real world to get us more product because they watch Nightmares for entertainment in downtown. And so I totally see kind of all of these other grand conspiracy characters as being this kind of disjointed, people pop in, people pop out, just like directors, studio heads, producers do. That it's a representation of the film system that is being shown in this kind of inconsistent way in this movie. Once again, that's how I rationalize it, which I think is the word of the day for this episode.
All right. Okay. That's fine. I don't disagree with it. But like based on that, I don't know what to call it, analogy, or however you want to do it. How does Whoopi Goldberg's character of death play into all this? Because Whoopi Goldberg's death is basically the ruler of both of these planes of existence, and yet her character is essentially the arbiter of justice.
Sure. So I'm glad you asked me that, because this is the one that I've always had the toughest time with, because from what I have read in editing, a lot of Whoopi Goldberg's parts were cut. And that's some of the stuff that I haven't found any information about, like what was cut from Whoopi Goldberg's part. I definitely kind of see this as the opposite extreme, as instead of doing things as the grand conspiracy the film industry does with the explicit purpose of churning out more product, of bleeding creators dry for their greed and making money, it is the complete opposite of just reacting on a whim. Because we get the stuff where, she says like, why'd you steal the exit pass? And it's like, because I have a woman that I love and I want to say I love her. And she's like, okay. They say, go get him when him and Monkeybone steal the exit pass from her. But she stops when she sees the nightmare start to come in. Like, it is almost the complete opposite that she almost, at least the unformulated idea of this that I have, or unfully formulated, is that it is reactionary. It is just seeing how things go, how they play out, rather than, in a more modern analogy to what the studio system does, planning out 10 years in the future of what their franchise is going to look like. It is the immediate reaction rather than planning everything out for the future. It's the polar opposite of the grand conspiracy.
Okay.
That is known as J.R. Bob Dobbs, the founder of the Church of the Subgenius, is where that would relate to the Church of the Subgenius.
Oh my God, Rob. Oh my God.
Ben is rubbing his eyes. Ben is bloodshot right now.
Ben's reaction, this is the reaction of everybody listening to this. It's just like, it's kind of like mental exhaustion, just being like, what did I get myself involved with?
Hey, like I said at the start, no one else has this take. No one else has thought about this as much as I have. Everybody else on goddamn YouTube is just like, this movie's bad.
I don't know. I think you might be the opposite extreme of this.
Well, oh no, you're not wrong there.
You're like, to quote The Matrix, you're the result of the equation trying to balance itself out.
I thought you were going to say I'm the useless little girl program from the start of Matrix 3. It's like these two things that have no reason to come together came together and made something useless, and now you have a podcast.
I don't know though. Like, that's like, I feel woefully unprepared for this. Like, this is not like part of my argument with this movie was the fact that like on the VHS box, the website's thing is www.bitemymonkeyvideo.com. And then like on the DVD, like the DVD like little like hole in the middle is supposed to be like Monkeybone's butthole because he's bent over on the DVD discard. And Rob's like reading all these, and I get it. Like that's marketing versus like the deep philosophical intent of the filmmaker. But like Rob, I think you are on a different plane of analysis of this film than anybody in existence right now.
And I'm happy to be there.
I know you are. You're ecstatic to be there. At the like bewilderment of your co-host and the audience. Can we please talk about the fact that Thomas Hayden Church is an uncredited like gesture to Whoopi Goldberg?
Oh yeah,
we will
have to talk about that. I need to get so Zach, both of you said it best, Zach. You're both woefully unprepared, and that's how I start. Right before we did the intro of this episode, I said no one is ready for my take on this movie, and I'm glad I kept that promise. But okay, so Ben has had some time to process. Ben has always been a very logical discusser in our friendship. I think we can talk about things logically. So Ben, am I making sense?
I think the thing that has me the most baffled is that 100% it makes sense.
Ben's like I'm looking for holes.
Like I totally get where you're coming from. I don't have much to add, which makes me hesitant to speak too much here, but I definitely see why you would think the things that you've said about this situation. The Whoopi Goldberg connection might be the most, or I should say maybe the weakest, but everything else, like I think is pretty solid. And I don't know anything about Tom Selleck's brother, so I'm not really sure that I can analyze it too much deeper than that. But based on the fact that I've seen this movie, I definitely get where you're coming from about, the industry, like 100%. The Brendan Fraser's like, I don't know, like obstacle that he's dealing with at the beginning of the movie is that the industry wants to turn his product into something that he did not want it to be.
Yes.
And, in terms of that being like an overall theme for the movie, like absolutely, like that's heavily handed distribution of that idea at the very beginning. And then Monkeybone coming around and like this maybe is one area where like I'm a little less certain of your theory is like the character itself for whatever reason wants to grow, and I'm not sure how that fits in with the artist art kind of dynamic. I mean, maybe other than saying like the creation has taken a life of its own. Taken on a life of its own, and in that way it's like the industry and the creation suddenly feel like they're working together against the artist, in the sense that the art is actively seeking out these opportunities. And it totally could feel that way to an artist who creates something that becomes viral, for instance. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you, and that's where the baffled comes in, because I didn't expect this movie to be deep. I mean, I got like from the beginning, there's this whole like underworld vibes, and I've talked some about venturing into the underworld before and the thematic ideas behind it, and the whole like saving your father from the underworld type of thing. And there's a little bit of that going on at the beginning of this, where he's, in this case, his father, metaphorically speaking, is actually himself for his own sanity. He has to go into the underworld to realize that he needs to take control of the situation before it takes control of him. And literally it takes control of him. And then he has to fight his way back out to kind of undo the damage and to take his life back over. So in terms of like the surface level symbolism, like I was ready to have a conversation about that, but I was not ready to have a conversation about somebody's entire career.
No, you bring up a really good point there about the industry and the creation fighting against the creator. And I think this movie gets at that, in addition to also the audience members or the people that consume the media from the industry at the end of the movie. As hilarious as it is, and a great little comedy setup of an organ donor's body has come back to life and doctors are chasing it down to get the organs. As funny as that is, I take that whole end to be the doctors are either, audience members, or they are, merchandisers or marketers from the industry. Because the masterstroke of this whole joke is that when Chris Kattan comes back to life as they are getting ready to operate on him, and as we learn throughout the whole end of the scene, he has his stomach already cut open, they aren't shocked that a dead body has come back to life. They are shocked that they are not getting the organs that they want.
Yes.
It is literally like if the creator chooses to stop creating and dies in a certain sense, when they do come back to life, the merchandisers, the marketers, the audience is going to go, wait, no, like you gave up. We want everything else we can get from you. And then literally the climax of the movie is Chris Kattan, Stu in Chris Kattan's body, the creator fighting his created product, Monkeybone, in Stu's body, while the doctors are literally underneath them catching the pieces that fall out. It is literally the great misery creates great art idea, that they are taking his stomach, his liver, and I think there's one other organ we see. I got to scroll down to my snacks section. Kidney, because I put those in my snacks. And they are literally just saying, oh, he is fighting with himself. The whole point of the movie is that Stu wants control over his life, or he wants control back of his life. But nobody cares. The doctors, the audience, the industry doesn't care. They want the crumbs that will fall out as a result of his pain.
Yeah, I mean, that's really profound, but also it seems accurate. And I thought you were gonna talk about all of the donors that are trying to like hit the piñata to get the merchandise, and how once the stuffed animals come out, like they like fight each other. Like they're obviously very swanky rich people, and they like fight over these dolls that have come out. So I thought that's where you were gonna go, but no, you're right. And in this sense, you know, somebody coming back to life or re-entering the art world or something after a long hiatus. You're definitely going to get at least that part of their audience that wants them to pick up exactly where they left off and do the things they were doing that led to them leaving the art world in the first place, which absolutely feels like organ hunting, which I hope we can start saying now. Organ hunting.
I do that on the weekends when I'm not recording this podcast. I hunt organs.
So that's pretty great, and you know, it kind of reminds me of this thing. Like there's this. I don't know if it's some kind of curve, like the fan curve, where it's like at some point you like the product and then you like the artist, but you respect the artist still, and then you like the product so much that you don't respect the artist at all. Okay. And it's like you are willing to essentially be awful to the artist because you like the product so much, and that's an idea that comes up with bands a lot. Because their fans don't give a shit about the band most of the time. They care about the music. And so that's, I mean, I guess I'm also kind of getting that vibe, which you mentioned it, but it's kind of hitting me now, like definitely the idea of not giving a shit about the artist is really prevalent in here.
Yeah, and I think it's, like I also said, that getting at this idea of separating the art from the artist. There are so many instances where the masses can't do that. And I'm glad you mentioned bands, because one I always think of with that is, Radiohead. Radiohead might not be the best example or most extreme example, but Radiohead is such a fantastic band. Their most famous and most well-received song ever is Creep. And they get so much attention for that Radiohead hates it. And they will not play it live because they are like, this is not our best song. You should not know us for one song. They have a whole thing about not being a one-hit wonder, and they're a little weird. They're weird artists as well. But I will always love when they played Creep live for the first time in like 20 years or something. You can find the clip on YouTube. They do the opening riff of Creep, and there's like 15 minutes nonstop applause from the audience, like so loud that they cannot perform the rest of the song. Like they have to wait to perform it. And they hate that shit. I think the more example that ties to this movie is Paul Rubens as Pee Wee Herman. There are so many people that just know Pee Wee Herman. They don't know he's a different person. And I think that is exactly why Paul Rubens gets in trouble for masturbating in a porn theater, is because everybody saw him as Pee Wee Herman, this asexual little kid character. No one wanted to believe that there was an actual person with sexual desire behind him. Nobody could separate his character from his actual being, and that was his downfall. And I think that's what that's what you were getting at a little bit.
So that's something that comes up. It's kind of interesting. So like the idea of not being able to separate character or the art from the artist, that actually happens for the most part that I'm familiar with it with actors. Like they become like that's they become a character. Like Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, and like
Sure.
Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter, and like they have to do something kind of drastic to try to get that separation to where they can be seen as somebody who can do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But in other cases, like with comic book artists and in this show like TV, because they're doing a cartoon TV show, like artists for those shows, like they're barely even recognized in terms of, so like in some fields of art, the art is never attached to the artist.
Sure.
And it's kind of interesting that we can have things like, the situation with R. Kelly, where it's like, in a very real way, a lot of you probably never connected his art to him anyway, but now that he's a bad person, that's all you want to do is connect his art to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I have never really considered, but I just now I'm finding it quite an interesting idea, is like that you're choosing to connect his art to him now only because you have, like, as a means to hurt him.
Yep.
But
Oh, yeah.
but not because you ever did it before or appreciated the art as that before. So I don't know. There's a lot here in terms of how art relates to artists. And it seems, at least from the little bit of thought I've been able to give it since we started, that it happens so differently in different environments.
Absolutely. And even the R. Kelly one is a great example because, even the people that are canceling him and see him as a monster. And once again, I've been on record, I do think he is objectively a terrible person. These same people are just ignorant of the fact that he's the person who wrote and performs I Believe I Can Fly, one of the most uplifting songs in human history. And it's like, man, he's terrible to women and all that stuff. And, everything that we saw in that documentary, I'll put that in air quotes, Zach, because that is not a true documentary. But then they want to be like, it's like, well, I Believe I Can Fly. That was him. Like, he wrote that. They play that at sporting events. They play that as uplifting moments in movies, TV shows. That song is almost ubiquitous with an uplifting moment in media. And then everybody's going to be like, well, I don't really want to think about this when it comes down to that. How can this song that has given us so many good moments be tied to someone so evil? But like I said, that's art. Separating art from the artist is a that's not that idea that this movie's getting at exactly. But I know where you're coming from, Ben. I do want to go back to talk about the Megan Mullally character, the sister, and I think one of the also amazing things in this movie is that Stu's in a coma. We get that very, very strange but oddly darkly funny, I think, where Megan Mullally is clapping at the doctor and she's like, "Doctor, shut the fuck up. Tell me when I can kill my brother."
Oh, vital signs have stabilized. That's good.
Listen, Doctor, these machines are actually what's keeping him alive right now, right?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. Well, then, do you think that you could possibly give me a realistic...
Comas are unpredictable. He could wake up today or tomorrow or a month from now.
Doctor, hey, sweetheart. Our father took a long time to die. So, Stu and I made a pact that when our time came, we wouldn't let it drag out. So, which one's the plug?
What plug?
The plug. Yeah, the one you pull.
Oh, God, Kimmy, don't even talk
Hey,
about it.
I need a realistic answer, Doctor. Give me a date.
All right. 3 months. There's always some brain damage, but after 3 months, the chances of coming back shrink dramatically every day.
Well, I want him to have every chance, Doctor. We could certainly give it 3 months.
And we get that scene, and the doctor says 3 months. Like, there's some chance that he'll come back or get out of his coma in 3 months. But after that, like, every day is almost like the chances drop dramatically or something like that. 3 months in this movie takes like 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and that's one of the things that I'm confused about why they ever decided to give that real world timeline. Maybe it just fits with the Megan Mullally joke, but I love the fact that the length of the coma, we don't get any extended scenes of like, well, what are people doing around him while he's in a coma? What is Stu doing while he's trapped in downtown? I just love the idea that, he gets put into a coma. Everybody's like, well, what are the chances? Is he going to come back out? And it's like, we have this time limit, and then we're just going to kill him. And it's basically saying, like, you know, if this creator isn't going to create for us, well, just pull the plug on him. Like, there's no purpose to have him around anymore. Because then once he's gone, the rights of Monkeybone will divert to somebody else, and they can give the props, the go-ahead for merchandising. And the cherry on top of the coma storyline is that when Monkeybone takes over the body and Brendan Fraser actually sits up in the hospital bed, we get that great, like, shot of the camera on a Lazy Susan, and it spins around and shows the reaction of, like, the sister, the doctor, a nurse, Bridget Fonda, and the manager. And in that scene, everybody looks shocked. Like, the doctor's stunned, the nurse is stunned, like, mouth agape, the sister faints, Bridget Fonda starts to almost cry. The manager smiles. The manager is the only one to smile in response to Brendan Fraser coming back to life. And the next time we see the manager, he's like, go ahead with the marketing, go ahead with the merchandising, go ahead, he's giving us the green light. That is just the best touch to that scene, where the guy's like, my moneymaker is still alive. It's wonderful.
Since we've gotten kind of past it temporally, I want to make sure that we don't skip it. The scene where Julie is informed that the 3 months is up.
Yep.
And the sister is, like, she just, for whatever reason, there's a window open in his hospital room, and she's outside smoking a cigarette, and she just leans into the window and is like, by the way, I'm gonna kill your boyfriend. Bye.
Yep. And they even, like, highlighted it where what Bridget Fonda says, like, what are you doing out there? And Megan Mullally, like, waves the cigarette. Yeah. And it's just like that. That's just a very strange, like, setup for a conversation.
I thought that was funny as shit.
I just took that as Megan Mullally was like, if we got to do this scene, and if we have to do it now, and you won't let me take a break, I need to smoke a cigarette.
I like to believe it was kind of a statement about her character. Like, she is a little bit callous in terms of, like, being ready to kill her brother off, but also doesn't want to deal with the consequences of that.
Sure, yep.
And so she's just like, "Hi, I'm killing your husband to be. Also, bye."
Yep, she, like, shrugs it off, basically. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I do love her little one line where she's I think she's the one holding the big scissors in Bridget Fonda's dream about the plug getting pulled, and she does the "Bon voyage, little brother." Like, the delivery of that is just so creepy, which I love.
Bon voyage, little brother.
No, Kimmy!
Oh my God! No! Don't! Julie!
Oh God, that whole thing was creepy. Like, he deflates, and then Julie picks up his deflated body, and
wonderful
crazy.
Visuals. I do have to mention one of the deleted scenes that I read about, which I don't know if you... Apparently these are on the DVD, Zach. I don't know if you watched them when you got it from Netflix. There is a scene where Monkeybone, now in Stu's body, so Monkey Stew, I guess, as we're calling it.
Monkey Stone,
yeah, whatever it is. He's in, like, a bathroom trying to, like, shave off the beard that he grew when he was in the coma. And Megan Mullally comes in, and she's trying to say that she's sorry for, like, being gung-ho about pulling the plug. But, of course, she apparently says something like, but, that's what the pact we made, because their dad, like, had problems at end of life and type of stuff. And Monkeystone does not know Megan Mullally is Stu's sister and makes sexual advances towards her. That scene was cut from the movie.
I wonder why.
That's pretty funny.
I told you about my DVD didn't have any bonus features.
Oh, that's right. Okay. You did mention that. Yep. So
I'm just like, that's why she disappears, because she's, like, weirded out that her brother hit on her, and then she just leaves and is not in the rest of the movie.
I mean, yeah, could be. But I found that I agree with you, Zach. Where I read that and I'm like, yep, that sure does get cut, The early 2000s, they'll make fun of gays all they want in their raunchy comedies, but incest is a little too far to make a joke about still.
That's one thing I gotta say about this movie. Not much homophobia.
Yeah, which is good.
That is surprising for 2000.
From what we've seen already, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we got there was a lot of homophobia in the Saving Silverman and
Sugar and Spice.
Sugar and Spice
Spice
had
Girls.
some jokes about it. Yeah.
Cheerleader Spice and whatever their names are.
Terminator Spice, Cheerleader Spice,
Pregnant Spice.
Wall-eyed Spice. No, Wall-eyed Spice. She's wall-eyed before she's pregnant.
Okay, fine.
Can't look at the camera straight Spice is acceptable as well.
No, that's not true. She can look at two cameras straight. It's an ability, Rob. She's handy capable.
I love that. Oh god. Well, that's fantastic. No, but I love that whole the coma doesn't really matter. The coma is the entry point for Monkeybone and for the creator to fight the creation. I'm so glad that it doesn't spend time on the coma. Like I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, they use it as like a story mechanism, and that's
yeah, totally fine. I have to mention, and Zach, we have to talk about it. Stephen King in this movie, or at least the portrayal of Stephen King.
Like they're all of Stephen King.
Yes, I don't know if you had read this, but from what I read, apparently they were supposed to get the actual Stephen King for that scene, but he was unavailable during filming. And I could not find why he was unavailable, but I don't even think we need to research it. He's clearly unavailable to film a movie or be in a movie because he's doing too much cocaine and dancing on Stanley Kubrick's grave in 2001.
Oh God!
So there was Lizzie Borden and Attila the Hun and et cetera down there, and we learned that these nightmare people are fueled by nightmares, and they create or they create these situations where the figment can take over the body to go fuel more nightmares. I was definitely getting the impression like Lizzie Borden is the lady who like killed her parents.
Yep.
Like that whole nursery rhyme about her taking an axe to her parents.
40 whacks. Yep.
And when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41 or something, whatever. So, I definitely got the impression that this movie was trying to tell us like these people didn't do the horrible things; the figments of their imagination did, or something from like Coma Town. Downtown.
It definitely. It's always been strange that they include like the like you said, Jack the Ripper, Attila the Hun, Lizzie Borden,
Edgar Allan Poe.
Well, I think that's the difference between the killers because in the credits they also list one of the people in there as Typhoid Mary. So there's a distinction between the killers and the creators. And I agree with you, Ben, that there is some weird, like, underlying implication that they're all trapped there because of this body switch thing. But it's definitely more clear that it's like, oh, they sent Cujo back in Stephen King's body to create more nightmares. They sent the Raven back in Edgar Allan Poe's to create more nightmares. So I've always been kind of confused that why is there that separation? Like, why not fill the whole thing with horror writers or something like that? Or horror animators? That's one of the great unanswered questions that we'd have to get from Henry Selick or Sam Hamm. But I do love the whole Stephen King, when Hypnos comes into the jail, Stephen King's like, have you worked on that nightlight I asked you for? And Edgar Allan Poe calls him a pussy. And I'm like, good, fuck you, Stephen King. And I'm just, one of our favorite jokes, Zach. Hey, honey, Edgar Allan Poe called me a pussy. Oh God, Stephen King, go back, do your cocaine. Go do your cocaine, Stephen King.
Damn right.
Go dance on Stanley Kubrick's grave. Stanley Kubrick wouldn't care. But yeah, I wish they would have had the actual Stephen King. That would have worked so much better for my disdain of him. But getting those jabs in is great. I thought that was awesome.
If I may ask, Rob, did you do any research on like this, like the comic book or like graphic novel source material of this Darktown?
I did. So yeah, that's something that the original intention for this movie was Selick got the rights to a comic called Darktown, which didn't sell very well. It's by someone named Kaha Blackley. It didn't sell very well, so the project was kind of stopped. It never really finished. But they got the rights to this thing called Darktown, a comic from 1995, and Selick fell in love with it. And the original idea was to very faithfully adapt that source material. But from interviews I read with Sam Hamm when they were working on, like, Sam Hamm wrote the original screenplay based on Darktown, the like very faithful rendition, and then him and Henry Selick started to sit down, discuss the movie, and started to morph it into this, satirical parody, including the elements of the Church of the Subgenius and things like that. I was looking for a way to read Darktown. I didn't do a lot of research on it, but I hope to find it one day because it sounds pretty cool. And from what I read about it, some of its ideas do make its way into Coraline later, which is pretty neat.
Oh.
So Henry Selick still has some affection for it, because apparently Darktown is the thing that created people having buttons sewn over their eyes, and that's a huge element of Coraline. Speaking of Sam Hamm, he also wrote Tim Burton's Batman movies, which I never knew until researching this.
Rob, how could you not know that? It involves a plan involving gassing everybody to have them have hallucinations.
Well, I knew that. I guess then I knew it implicitly. I never explicitly looked into it because I couldn't care less about Tim Burton's Batman movies.
Oh, Rob.
Like everybody says, what? Planet of the Apes, which we'll talk about later this series, right? That's when Tim Burton starts to go downhill, and it's like, no, he went downhill by selling out with fucking Batman. And Batman Returns isn't even a fucking Batman movie. It's a Catwoman movie. It should be called Catwoman. I don't like those movies. Batman's in it for like 10 minutes in the second one.
Oh my god, because he's the least interesting character in those movies.
Oh god. So yeah, I did look into Sam Hamm.
So I have a question. Are both Sam Hamm and Henry Selick parts of this cult?
Not that I could find in the membership things I was reading, but they very well could be, because I'm sure that I did not find, comprehensive membership lists for the Church of the Subgenius. I think I just found the ones where people are like, oh, these are people who have talked about it on record before that you might find interesting, that type of thing. All
right, what's that website we went to where we figured out where Lucy Liu likes to chain smoke? Tadler.com.
I'll put that for the next episode we release after this is the 3-year extravaganza episode. We will be diving into Tadler.com because I fucking want to know if certain women smoke, and that seems to be the website to tell me.
We're going to find out if Bridget Fonda smokes after she disappears. Okay, Rob, who is more in exile right now, Bridget Fonda or Martin Brest? Who is more in exile?
Ooh. They both kind of seem self-imposed, right? I don't think Bridget Fonda got...
I don't think Bridget Fonda's done anything in 20 years.
Yeah, Martin Brest is self-imposed, but also kind of, I'm sure that if he's tried to stay around, the studios would have pushed him out after Giggly. But I don't know. I would say maybe Martin Brest, because you can't even, like, that Playboy article that says his friends don't even know where he is. That's very extreme, I think. Where I would imagine you could have like an interview with Danny Elfman and be like, how's your wife, Bridget Fonda? She's good. Next question. That's a step up from, where's Martin Brest? Somewhere in New York, we think.
Who will more likely die of embarrassment? Martin Brest or Bridget Fonda after this movie?
With a name like Martin Brest, I would imagine he has a certain immunity to embarrassment.
Oh my god!
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, Ben, that Martin Brest can't come out into the public eye because middle school bullies are gonna make fun of him.
I mean, I would like to believe that if you're gonna live your whole life with a name like that, you're gonna get immune to the bullying. Sure. That may not be true. It might be that over time it just built up and it finally, was too much for him.
Rob, did Ben make this comment during the Beverly Hills Cop episode? Did he make that joke?
I don't think so, because we were very focused on Beverly Hills Cop.
How fucking awful that movie was.
The black hole that movie is. There was very little else talked about in that movie.
That's racist. It's any color hole it wants to be.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Zach, have you watched that yet? Get on that.
No, Rob.
You should watch it twice.
Oh, geez. Don't do me any favors.
Simultaneously. Set up 2 TVs, have it playing on both TVs. Just slightly offset. Like the audio, like the one is maybe a few seconds behind, because I can tell you that will distract you from the movie enough and will give you less of a headache than the actual film.
I thought you were going to tell me to play it forwards and backwards at the same time, like like Room 237, The Shining.
Wait, did you ever watch Tenet forward and backward at the same time? Does that work?
Not.
Oh, God, we
someone's
haven't tried that
probably
yet.
done it, but we haven't done it. But I'm sure they're working. If the YouTube video doesn't exist already, it's in progress. Oh man. So Monkeybone, I want to talk about the merchandising scene with Burger God and the toy company. So one, that scene is wonderful, and I love the way that the camera work is done, because after the deal is closed with Burger God, the camera swings into Stu and Herb. There is an edit in there, but then when it cuts back to them, the camera swings, and it implies that in like 5 seconds, all the Burger God people left and the toy company came in and sat down in the same exact seats, which is a wonderful little touch.
Are they different people? I thought that they were the same people.
They're definitely different, because the Burger God rep is played by Pat Kilbane, who I know from Mad TV. And Zach, do you remember the Bizarro Jerry episode of Seinfeld?
Oh, yeah.
Pat Kilbane is Bizarro Kramer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I haven't seen Pat Kilbane since literally the early 2000s. But yeah, the Burger God are in white suits, and the toy company reps are in gray suits. Now, I think there's a very specific reason that the Burger God reps are dressed in white. And well, one, about that scene, Monkeybone, Monkey Stone, Monkey Stew, Monkeybone and Stew's body, now that's wordy, finds a pig gut in the burger they give to him, demonstrating an immense disregard for quality control, but he chooses to go with them over McDonald's because Burger God is offering more money. Once again, the whole merchandising aspect I've described, that is such a on-the-nose joke with that. But I believe the Burger God people are dressed in white, even though they are part of this corporate conspiracy, as this movie's setting up, is because Burger God is an actual creation and thing in the so-called sacred texts of the Church of the Subgenius.
Oh, my God.
And I would like to once again tell everybody I'm on a list now, because I have on my computer an excerpt from the Gospel According to Philo Part 2 from Revelation X, the Bob Apocryphon.
Are you for real right now?
I am. I have looked into the sacred text of the Church of the Subgenius, and so here we go. This is about the founder, J.R. Bob Dobbs, that I was mentioning before. And this is right from it. Okay. He invented the first hamburger franchise chain, almost identical to the later McDonald's formula. But despite all advice from his hired ad boys, he insisted on calling his chain Burger God. He said he wanted Americans to loosen up, but church groups were outraged. 7 or 8 Burger God outlets actually opened around Pittsburgh, Peoria, Cleveland, and Minneapolis, and they might have done well if not for the riots. Dobbs couldn't quit experimenting with the sacred sauce formula. He said he was working toward the perfect population control method. Not that he was trying to limit the numbers of people. He wanted to control the population no matter how big it got. He was sure that he could encode behavioral traits into the beef fat. The doctored fat molecule would go into storage in the body and release over a long period of time, instilling a zombie-like trance in his burger customers. A zombie-like trance? I thought he was trying to wake people up. But Dobbs said he was being kind the way he saw it. To him, chemically induced slack via hamburgers was a charitable gesture, considering how far gone most of the pinks already were. The pharmaceutical companies and the psychiatry industry didn't see it his way, however, and the AMA shut his chain down for good, at least in the U.S.
So he actually was trying to, broad-scale poison people?
Well, no, like it says, he saw it as a charitable gesture. He wanted to give them this zombie-like state, because remember, one of the commandments of the Church of the Subgenius is that people should shun regular employment and exploit fear. And I think this is doing kind of both things. They're getting people very complacent, and the people who are not complacent are going to fear these zombie-like creatures.
Sure.
There's a lot of this text. It's actually like a full fucking book from the Church of the Subgenius. And it is wonderful, but that's the excerpt about Burger God. And I think everybody's a little better off for having listened to me say that.
I mean, it's nice to know that it's based on something, I guess.
So Burger God is a direct reference to the Church of the Subgenius, and that is fantastic. They sell pig guts in the burgers!
That actually seemed related to the sugar and spice thing, where like the boyfriend gets fired from a burger place because he says something about like there aren't any rats in here.
Fried rats in buckets. Yep. Absolutely. So I didn't mention it before, but there is when I give my $35 to the Church of the Subgenius to become an ordained Church of the Subgenius minister, there is a way that I can gift this ordainment. So I have both of your guys' email address. You're going to be on this list too.
Oh boy.
You're allowed to buy it for us?
Yeah, you can gift it, and I think this is the best use of our Patreon money, is for all of us to become ordained Church of the Subgenius ministers.
I mean, we're pretty close to getting $35 if we don't already have it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's once again another
Rob's
great
like
scene.
sold.
This movie is fucking amazing. There's so much going on in this movie. It's wonderful. Everybody should revisit it. Like 100%. Well, I think you mentioned it before, Zach, when you were asking me about, what's the thoughts on the other Henry Selick movies. And I think that there's actually like a big, there's meaning to them. Like, I think Henry Selick is, like you said, an auteur. He wants to say something with his films. He's not just doing it because he loves stop motion, and he does love stop motion. I'm just saying he's not only doing it to show off that medium and his ability in it. I just find it so crazy that, and it might be a 2001 of the Time thing, that Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach, they're those types of movies that I think they're for kids, but they're in that collection of kids movies that, the parents are okay with seeing as well, because there's actually things going on in them. There's meaning there. It's not just like, oh, this is just something you sit your kid down in front of the TV so that they'll be quiet for an hour and a half, or in the case of those two movies, like 70 minutes. There's actually something to them, and people recognize that. I find it so strange that when this movie comes out, they're just like, it's bad, there's nothing to it, done. And they throw it all out. It's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater, one of our favorite sayings. I'm shocked that nobody in 2001 was like, well, no, it's Henry Selick. He's now doing something that he has a little more control over. He's not at Disney. He's not literally having his shoulder being looked over by Tim Burton when he's making these movies. Because, of course, Tim Burton is also a producer on James and the Giant Peach. Why wouldn't they think there's more here? That's what I find baffling, that they threw it all away in one fell swoop, and it gets considered to be, just a piece of trash.
I think part of it is because of Fox. Think about what the studio Fox was like in this. Like, God, had been for most of that time period since they got bought out as Disney. They were very stingy. They were very, they believed in giving people what they want in the most immediate sense. Like, there's your representation of the Whoopi Goldberg character. Mm-hmm. Instant gratification over thinking about long-term ramifications of decisions. I don't know. I think Fox is to blame because clearly we don't know. I think that's the most frustrating aspect of this movie.
Yeah.
Is there really is no oral history of this movie in any sort of meaningful way outside of maybe hearsay, a la like Blank Check, where like you hear some things where it's kind of like one step above IMDb trivia.
Sure.
Very frustrating.
Absolutely. Yes. So, I mean, I think one of the other things that I wanted to get some opinions about, definitely from Ben, it's a very small part of this movie, and I think it adds to what I've been saying I think they're going for with these art separating the artist. Monkeybone is a part of Stu. He's just as much a part of Stu as his nightmares are. But we do get the line in this movie where Bridget Fonda's friend is like, how do you go from painting Hieronymus Bosch-style nightmares to goofy Monkeybone? And her response is, I made him switch hands.
Yeah.
What did you think about that idea, Ben?
I mean, I definitely thought it was strange. I can understand like what they were going for, but it's complete nonsense as far as I understand.
I wish they would have delved into it further, because I think that's something I know we've talked about this. It's been years ago when we lived near each other, Ben, and I was doing my pencil artwork. That I want to choose my words carefully because I don't hate it. I find very little use in photorealistic artwork. Like those people who are like, look at this, I can draw something and it looks like a photograph. And it's like, What's the point of that? You can just take a photograph. The
Right.
much more fascinating thing of the human condition, of the human body, is that the function of the body on the mind. Like if you tell 10 people, draw a dog, chances are every single person's going to draw something different because everybody's thinking of the same thing, but the function of what their physical body does to the product is fascinating. So I wish this movie delved deeper into the idea, and I know it's not really the point of the movie, of the idea of switching hands. It's the same input, but it is changing the function of your physical body. Unless you're ambidextrous, of course, but that's not what this movie's getting at. I know that they're getting at that, he's drawing different things, but his nightmares and Monkeybone are the same, from the same brain, they're from the same place, and that gets more at the creative stuff. But I just love the idea that it's like, I know for me, if you make me draw, as Ben knows, the thing that I've drawn more in my life than anything else, a radio tower, it's going to look wildly different when I draw it with my left hand because I don't have good control over my left hand. An artist might have more control over both of their hands, and it might give them very different things. But that's the one thing that I've always been like, movie, you're taking a little too easy of an out by just saying, how did he go from this to this? Switched hands. And I kind of wanted to be like, well, no, he met the love of his life. He was actually starting to have outward changes rather than inward changes, rather than just going, let's do it a little differently.
I think what she was shooting for is something like that left brain, right brain bullshit.
Sure.
Whereas, like, she
like that.
made
left brain, right brain bullshit. I like that.
I mean, that's what it is. It's bullshit.
I don't know. You telling me if we open up somebody's head and take out the entire right half of their brain, they would not just be left brain?
I mean, they would be. If you took out the entire left half, they'd be all right. But
hey-o.
No, I don't know. I just that's definitely what they were going for, and I think that it was just kind of I don't know. It felt like an explanation that wasn't even needed. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He chose to do something different, so he did something different.
I would have liked it because, of course, it's not a main facet of this movie, but it's there that before when Stu is like prior to this movie, Stu's existence is basically he can't get a good night's sleep. He's a nightmare factory. That's why he's famous in Coma Land, because he has all these ridiculous nightmares. They all say, "Hey, like you're famous down here. I've seen all your nightmares." Right. I would have liked it a lot better if it was like, well, how does he go from nightmare drawings to Monkeybone drawings? And she goes, actual scientific methods of sleep therapy. Because that's why they met. She's a sleep therapy doctor. Right. And that would make so much more sense than just saying, he switched hands. Be like, no, we actually gave him medical treatment that has been established and works. And that changed his outlook on his drawings. That would have been just as easy, I think. But I think that's another thing this movie's getting at with why it's so juvenile that they just call it nightmare juice at a certain point. It's juvenile enough to go, switched hands, It's that incompleteness, that disjointedness once again.
Yeah.
Zach, do you draw? Which hand do you draw with?
I draw with all the hands.
Zach's like, I'm basically Vishnu. I got like 8 arms. I draw with all of them.
I draw with
Octazak.
Yes.
Octazak is a scary thought. Oh man, no, I figured that would be something that stood out to you for sure with the art idea. To be totally honest, with my sensibility, as I'm sure you guys both know, and the audience could probably pick up on, Stu's nightmare drawings. That's what I would hang in my apartment. Fuck Monkeybone. Like, that drawing of him getting, like, he's the carrot worm thing about to be operated on by, like, the doctor with the weird bulging thing coming out of his eye. Fantastic. Like, give me that every day over fucking Monkeybone.
Yeah, I mean, the Monkeybone art is juvenile. And
as Zach said at the start, what'd you do? Was it ugly that you referred to that Monkeybone short?
Oh, God. It's like Beatles Yellow Submarine animation. And it's just it's so unnerving. Like that, like the psychiatrist at the end laughing. It's like Blue Meanie level nightmare fuel. Nope.
Absolutely.
I swear to God, that's what turned me off. And keep in mind, this was the exact same time period that I discovered the Yellow Submarine. Like, this is all connected. Like, it's all there.
That's a good point. The psychiatrist laughing, I definitely see what you're saying with the Blue Meanie, absolutely. But apparently Zack is firing shots at the Swedish artist Magnus Carlsen. That's what that whole Monkeybone skit, the art style, was based off of. And I do want to say, there is an extended, from what I've read, there's an extended version of that short And it involves, after the psychiatrist like pushes Stu out of the office, Monkeybone shows up in the office, and he throws the psychiatrist out of a window and rides him like the bomb that Slim Pickens rides at the end of Doctor Strangelove.
Beautiful.
Yes, and I'm like, show me that. Also in that scene, because it's like by the time he and the psychiatrist hit the ground, Stu is coming out of like the office building, and Monkeybone tells Stu to stick his thumb in his ass instead of sucking on it. And that's the setup for why the toy company makes the thumb in the butt doll later on that got cut from the movie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that is there, because in the movie it is kind of jarring. I mean, not totally jarring, but you're like, Monkeybone, you know, clearly there's that raunch humor, because it starts with the erection in the opening thing, but we don't get a lot of that, like, you know, ass stuff. But it is set up in the extended version. So, there you go. Apparently there's a reworked version of how Stu gets into the coma, where the accident doesn't cause the coma, but there's a little bit where they get out of the car and part of the damage done by the car hitting like a building falls on Stu, like a pipe or something, and that causes the coma. But in this version, when Stu gets out of the car, he's very angry at the manager, Herb, because he's like, why'd you put all this shit in my car? Like, it gets more at that merchandising aspect. And Herb's response is, that's it! We should make Monkeybone airbags! And I'm like, damn it, movie, I wanted to see that in this version.
Oh my God,
the
wow.
last extended scene that stood out to me was apparently when Monkeybone and Stu get to Hypnosis Party. There's a little bit where paintings of Stu's, like the nightmare versions of his paintings, are hanging in Hypnosis' place. And Monkeybone says he doesn't like them, and Stu responds to him by saying, that's real art, you're just a dumb doodle. So they do get at the idea of, like, you know, it's coming from the same place, but even the creator has some animosity for what was unsuccessful in the living world and what is successful in the living world.
Oh.
I would love to see, like you said earlier, like a director's cut type of thing of this. I would love to just, like we've been saying, pick Henry Selick's brain about it. But I think we can say I have the definitive take on Monkeybone.
I don't think anyone will ever argue with you, Rob, for that title.
That's we did it. My definitive take for Endless is out there. My definitive take for Monkeybone. And when we revisit Southland Tales, I will finally be able to give my definitive take of that movie, because I never got to do it because Justin sucks. There's movies that are fundamentally misunderstood, and I'm here to tell everybody the actual reasoning behind them. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I'm here to tell you why you're wrong.
All right, I'm on the waybackmachine.com typing in bitemymonkeyvideo.com.
Ooh, okay.
All right, let's see what the archive of the internet has for this. All right, it was saved 34 times between July 2001 and October 2005.
Okay.
And let's see, Rob. Oh my God.
If it has like the Monkeybone theme song to download or grab somehow, I will definitely get it, because it is obscured in the movie by dialogue and stuff, and I couldn't find like an actual score version of the Monkeybone theme from the opening cinematic.
Oh my God. It has like a bunch of ads for Fox stuff. Has ads for Bedazzled, Dude, Where's My Car, Quills, and Marilyn Monroe, Castaway.
Dude, Where's My Car? We'll have to talk about that movie one day.
One of the strangest movies ever made.
Oh my God, that movie is another movie that is literally almost incomprehensible.
Insane.
God. Have you seen that, Ben? Dude, Where's My Car?
Yeah, I have.
Do you remember that there's a large part of that movie is about a cult and like
Sultan.
a Jonestown massacre type thing?
It's Sultan, right?
I think so. I think that's that one.
Yeah, I remember that movie maybe better than I should.
Nice. I like that.
All this website is literally just like advertisements.
Okay.
Pre-order 1 hour photo, rent the Banger Sisters, The Shield, winner of 2 Golden Globes.
1 hour photo, the Robin Williams movie?
Yeah, this is from July 2002.
Oh,
I guess. Yeah, Ice Age, like buy the Ice Age DVD. Available now on VHS too.
Wow, what a time capsule.
What's weird is that like what it saved from 2001 is not really like that indicative of, like, it's just like weird, like it didn't really save anything, it looks like.
That sucks. Okay, Zach, as you scavenge that website for more info, some tiny details for Monkeybone I wanted to mention. the movie takes a strong stance at a certain point about life support, where Monkeybone goes, you don't have life support, or you decline life support. Anyone that dumb deserves to die. That's a very hard stance to take. And I was just like, when did the Terry Schiavo thing happen, Zach? Do you remember? I just thought
2000.
of that.
That happened. Oh god, that spanned a couple years. Like it came to a head, I think, in like 2004. But
Okay. So that might have.
This was before that.
Okay. Because I was like, I don't know if that line seemed like it would get cut after the Terry Schiavo thing. It's not good optics.
No.
What happened with Terry Schiavo?
It's like the media, the thing in the media that started like the right to live debate. Like if someone's a vegetable, should we pull the plug or not type of thing. Whose choice is it? That stuff.
Okay.
That's a dour topic, I would say. I think that's the best way to describe it. And I mean, there's like the 10-year legal case about malpractice and stuff. The Terry Schiavo case is very depressing. Yeah, right to die, disability rights, that type of stuff. But yeah, I was very shocked in Monkeybone, where Monkeybone just straight up is like, no life support, anyone that dumb deserves to die. And I'm like, and that was the one where I was like, I was trying to fit it into my, the meaning and the rationalization of this movie. And I'm like, I definitely kind of see it as, maybe, like a director or a creator putting all their eggs in one basket. But I felt a little weird putting that line into a rationalization because it's very overt in this movie that they put so much emphasis on it. I love the design of the Reapers. I love when they're trying to get to Death's dominion, and they're going to hit the Reaper in the head with the monkey wrench. And when Brendan Fraser pulls the cloak off, its essence just like dissipates. Yeah, and Monkeybone's like, that's worth knowing. And I'm like, that is such a good way to set something up in a movie. You show it, and then literally have a character say, "Good to know."
Yeah, no, I thought that was phenomenal. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
line.
he's like, he might as well have been like, we'll use that later.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's good. Zach, you mentioned earlier the uncredited appearance of Thomas Hayden Church as Death's assistant.
Because what's so weird about that is that like Thomas Hayden Church is such like a distinct, recognizable voice. Mm-hmm. You hear him, but he's wearing so much like makeup, and the costume like makes him so unrecognizable physically.
Yep.
I'm like, there's no way. And you look at the credits, and he's not credited. And it's just like I get it. At that point, Thomas Hayden Church was, I don't want to say he was kind of like a has-been, but like it's like why? Like there's so many these kind of peculiar things about this movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like that's just one of those things. Like why? It's like you have like a Stephen King reference, then he's credited because of legal reasons, like man in like Dungeon.
Yeah, he introduces himself as Steve King, and then he's credited as like man in Dungeon or something like that. Yeah.
And then like you have Thomas Hayden Church, and you don't credit him. And then like even John Turturro's not even credited.
Yep. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but it's so strange. But I love Thomas Hayden Church gets a big laugh out of me when Stu is trying to tell Death that he wants to go back to the living world, for all these reasons. And I think Stu says something like, "It's because I got a girl up there and I never told her I loved her." And Thomas Hayden Church is like, "Well, that changes everything," and then turns the torture device on stronger to stretch him apart more. And then Death is like, "Get out of here, like go sit down or something." And then when Stu is explaining it more, Thomas Hayden Church like pops the little paper figure above the table. He's like, "Look at me, I love my girlfriend." And I'm like, this has no purpose in the movie, but I find it so goddamn funny.
But that's the thing, though. Like, does it have no purpose, or was there stuff cut?
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Because there's a lot of like weird stuff like that. Like the fact that like when they like have the exit pass and it's a giant like Abe Lincoln like sculpture in the sky.
Oh yes.
The fact that like Whoopi Goldberg's death comes out of a giant like like mech suit. It's like. Like that's what I mean. There's things that like I feel like those sort of things were set up, and they were just kind of cut out.
Sure. I mean,
even Rose McGowan disappears halfway through the movie. Like think about it. She springs him from jail, and then next thing we see is Brendan Fraser's right back in Death's clutches.
Yep.
And it feels like there's like 20 minutes that was just cut out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. 100%.
Even the whole thing. We never get any explicit, distinctive dialogue saying that like Hypnos and Death are siblings until Brendan Fraser's chained up with Death, and he's like, "Oh, it was your brother," and it's like, "Oh, Okay. So there's definitely something cut out there.
But that's what I mean, though. But, like, who is the antagonist in this film?
The industry, Zach. The grand
Jesus
conspiracy.
Christ.
Have you not been listening? The Pinks, Zach.
That's great.
They're not descendants of the Yetis.
All right. Who is the antagonist when we're not looking exclusively at subtext?
I would probably say Monkeybone and Hypnos.
But that's what I mean. Hypnos disappeared. He literally has, 2-3 scenes, and that's it?
Well, I would say it's Hypnos while we're in downtown. It's Monkeybone when we're back in the living world.
But Monkeybone's an extension of him, though. Like, that's the thing that's so weird, that like the moral of the story is that, like, you have to reconcile both parts of your being in order to find, like, happiness. You cannot, like, distill that odd part of yourself. And that's the thing, like Monkeybone's a figment of his imagination. It's not until he learns to reconcile that part of his persona that he can find happiness. And I think that's, like, again, there's a great moral to this beyond the bizarre subtext that Rob has uncovered. But that's the thing, though, is that, like I don't know.
Sure,
like, Rob has done a pretty good job. Like, he is right. Rob was right. He proved his thesis. Well done, Rob.
And no one was ready for it.
And nobody was ready for it. And nobody will ever be ready for it because nobody has seen this movie in 15 years. But it's just, there's so much of this movie that's genuinely inexplicable and we don't know why.
Sure,
and I think Rob might have explained it in a very, very specific sense/layer, but for the most part, this Rob has maybe put even another smoke screen in front of this film.
No, I know what you mean, and yeah, I would love if there was more info on this movie. I would love if more people actually thought about it instead of throwing it out, like I've said.
Did you watch the Nostalgia Critic review of this?
No, I did not. That was one of the ones where after I watched some others, I was like, I cannot bring myself to watch anymore. These people suck so bad.
Yes, it is. All it does is crap on the movie. Like, it is 25 minutes of sheer just crapping on the movie with really poorly done, like, comedy vignettes, like, interspiced. And it's just,
Yep. When I was doing my general search about this movie, just trying to find what other people thought about it, one thing that I definitely noticed, I didn't listen to any of it. I think I was getting burnt out after doing so much real research, because I think listening to other people's reviews is not exactly real research. It's more the opinionated stuff you get. This movie, there's an episode about it on something called the Unwatchable podcast, where they discuss unwatchable movies. And I just saw that and I was like, fuck you. Certainly there are some movies that are unwatchable. This is absolutely not one of them. This is the furthest goddamn thing from unwatchable. Like, I would imagine that there's some people out there that saw this in 2001, people older than us, in theaters and walked out. It seems like, from what I've read, people hated this movie that much. That is baffling to me. Because if you're in a theater and you don't like the movie, don't walk out. Just go to sleep. That's a better choice. Kidding aside, I find it unbelievable that this movie got that much hate, like I've been saying in this whole discussion.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad that there's some acceptance of what I've laid out here.
I mean, I definitely don't think it's anything like unwatchable. It's actually a pretty decent movie, but I do have to agree with Zach. There are parts, the amount of cutting that had to have been done, is a bit jarring at times. But it didn't. I don't know. It didn't ruin it for me or anything. Like, I didn't need to know about Hypno and the devil being brothers, or Death, Hypno and Death.
Sure. It's more of like the stuff that is in the movie. I think if you're watching it somewhat more passively than I've watched it, or maybe than people in 2001 were watching it and really picking it apart for some weird reason, it's all kind of fine. Like you said, like that example where Brendan Fraser just drops nonchalantly, where he's like, oh, Death, no, it wasn't my fault. Your brother told me about it. That's fine. We don't really need the shoe leather of, oh, we're brother and sister, or this is our mythology and backstory. We don't truly need any of that. I think the problem more is that it's edited so jarringly that it almost seems like it's incohesive, as it was said in the A.O. Scott review I quoted from before. And maybe people just hated that in 2001, but I think that's something that is so easy to get over, I just, it blows my mind. It has blown my mind for so long that when I say Henry Selick has the perfect career, 4 perfect movies, one of them's Monkeybone, people are like, Monkeybone. Shut up. It's a good goddamn movie. There's so much being said here. Bridget Fonda has nothing to do, but goddamn, she's doing it great. It's a wonderful movie.
Oh my God.
I do have to say, I love that reaction shot of when Monkeybone is singing She's a Brick House, at the charity event.
That is there any explanation for that, Rob? In your opinion, is there any explanation for that musical number?
Well, in the narrative, the superficial narrative, he's doing that to distract the audience from Herb already being infected by the nightmare juice.
Sure, but
and it's also his way that Monkeybone is proposing to Julie.
Okay.
Don't you want to be proposed to if your
enough,
significant other sings She's a Brick House and looks up other women's skirts during the proposal?
Oh my God, Rob.
Isn't that every woman's dream? Can us three men say explicitly that is every woman's dream?
Every women's?
Women's dream. No, but I love when he looks up the skirt, he's like singing and walking under them, and he's looking up the skirts of the dancers. We get the reaction shot from Bridget Fonda, and it's fantastic. It conveys shock and hurt so wonderfully. I'm like, Bridget Fonda, I wish you did more, but, I mean, she married the mystic knight of Oingo Boingo, Danny Elfman himself. That's the peak of anybody's life, I think.
Oh my God.
Why do you need to do anything else if you marry Danny Elfman? You have him sing St. James Infirmary to you every night, and you're happy. Your life is complete. I do have to say, though, Bridget Fonda is Melanie in Jackie Brown, the Quentin Tarantino movie, the one that Robert De Niro shoots point blank in the face because she's annoying him.
Stop giving that moment away.
Well, I have to give it away, Zach, because when are we ever going to cover that movie?
Stop giving it away, Rob.
Where's the car? Where's the car? Where's the car? Where'd you park the car? I can't find the car. Bullet to the forehead. That's Bridget Fonda.
God damn it, Rob. Knock it off.
What else can I give away? What about the incest in Elves? Can I give that away, Zach?
Stop!
Can I ruin every movie that we're going to discuss? Oh,
Rob,
God.
Rob. Oral.
Oh, Santa said oral.
Oh
Ben looked appropriately disturbed by us doing that, which is a good reaction. That would have been weird if Ben, like, his eyes lit up and he looked directly at the webcam. Well, I think I have exhausted my thoughts on this movie, every scene and take that I wanted to give. Is there anything else that we wanted to discuss about Monkeybone? 10 out of 10, American masterpiece? Well, no, I think we have to give it something higher than 21 out of 10, because that's what you and I, Ben, said about All Superheroes Must Die. I think we settled on 21 out of 10 American masterpiece.
Okay.
So 23 out of 10. Everybody join the Church of the Subgenius. I think that's the last thing I'll say.
All right,
fine.
Rob, who are we writing a letter campaign to in order to get this released, like on a new DVD, like Blu-ray?
This is another instance where I don't know if the letter campaign will work. I think we're going to have to take a page out of what I do for trying to find hot dogs for Gauguin and go right to hostage situation.
Hostage situation. Cool.
Yeah, like what do? We hold Mickey Mouse hostage? Can we do
that?
That
wouldn't work, Rob. We don't have enough. Like at this point, like now they say like you can't fight the government. Like it's kind of like Disney. When Disney has so many resources, there's nothing we could literally do to stop them.
I like that. Sure. I mean, I hope this movie gets some revival attention, but it seems like it's lost forever. No matter how important and meaningful I think it is, that's the downer of something like this that gets forgotten almost immediately after it came out 20 years ago. It's a bummer, you know? I mean, it's just ridiculous to me that, you know, we have like the existence of, you know, still the goddamn Hannibal Lecter franchise, you know, goes into
Clarice,
Hannibal Rising.
Rob, Clarice. We didn't talk about the TV show that has literally nothing to do with.
Well,
Hannibal
remember
stuff.
I mentioned the scene from the first episode with her cohorts are making fun of her with the lotion on the handle. Remember that?
Yep.
I did see a headline that read Clarice, the TV show Clarice without Hannibal Lecter is like Batman without the Joker. That was the headline. And I'm like, you're goddamn right, because CBS is cheap and wouldn't pay for the fucking rights to Hannibal.
Yep.
Oh, God. I'm not going to watch that show, but from what I've been reading, it's been getting horrendous reviews. Which it should, because we need to fucking... The series peaked. When it was revealed that Hannibal is a samurai, the series peaked. You can't get any better than that.
He's a samurai?
He is trained in the ways of the samurai in his origin story
Rob,
movie.
Please stop, Rob, please. All right. Are we ready for? Okay, Ben. Unless you have anything else to add to this, which at this point I think Rob has genuinely exhausted the topic. Are we ready to go into our questions?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Rob, you're not allowed to answer. What? You are not allowed to answer this because you have talked more this episode than Ben and I combined.
Well, I will just say that there are a lot of expletives in my answers to both Cinemoddies and Late Night in the positive way.
That's great, Rob. As for Cinemoddy, I am going to say yes before I heard the Rob subtext TED Talk. As for Late Night movie, I am going to give this a no because I think it is grating. It is a very grating film, even with nostalgia. Without nostalgia, there's no point to this. I think everything you can get from this film, Freaked does 1,000 times better. As I was watching this, I really was like jonesing for Freaked. That's a conversation for another day. But with that being said, I will pass this on to Ben. Then when Rob eventually starts talking, I can go make a sandwich, do my laundry, and come back, and he will still not be done. So
I'd like to read from the book of the Church of the Subgenius again.
Cinemodity, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a weird movie. There are other things like it to some degree, but nothing completely like it. So I'll give it a Cinemodity. And Late Night movie, surprisingly, yeah, I would suggest people watch this. It was a good time, and there's a lot to it, so I liked it.
Right on. It's like I said, it's no surprise what I think. I'll put it in the spreadsheet. It won't be unanswered. There's a lot of abso-fucking-lutelies. There's a lot of oh my gods in my answers to these, but this is just. I think I even said it at the end of last week, and at the start of this, I know I mentioned in both of those that this has been on my list to talk about since Cinemodity started. I'm glad we're finally getting to it. This is also one of my favorite movies of all time because I love movies I can think about in this way, and it checks all these goddamn boxes for me. So with that being said, snacks. I think I'm going to take an easy one that I'm sure some of us have thought of. I would love to have maybe little like rooms, maybe like, it's like if you've ever been like a library or like a campus library, they have those independent study rooms where you can kind of rent it out and there's just like a desk and it's supposed to be like a quiet space type of thing. We have something like that, maybe with a bed, but it's a pretty small room. I don't want to use the term cell, but that's probably close to what it's going to look like in the restaurant, where people can pay to go in there, we inject them with a shitload of nightmare juice, and they just get to have a nightmare. I think that'd be fun. I would honestly probably try getting injected with nightmare juice, too. To be completely honest, I would do that probably.
I believe that you would do that. That sounds like a trip that Rob wants to have. I can't fault you for wanting that in the restaurant. I mean, that sounds pretty dope, actually. Like the waking nightmare that guy experiences, that definitely seems like drugs. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I'm down. I would watch you use it.
Okay. It'd be like all those YouTube videos that existed years ago when kids were doing salvia they bought from gas stations and falling over. Yeah. And you just watch that on YouTube and people think that's fun for some reason. Okay. Maybe just like they watch Nightmares in downtown for entertainment, we have a feed in the restaurant where it's just a camera in that cell and we get to watch the people freaking out on their nightmare juice.
I'm with you, yeah.
Using other people's misery for entertainment and art. It's great. I can't believe we didn't even talk about that. Dave Foley, the manager, Herb, he has the nightmare that his clothes are attacking, and the movie actually ends with him saying, "For the love of God, people, take off your clothes."
Yeah.
Remember that I mentioned X Day on July 5th, 1998, in the Church of the Subgenius Devival was held at a clothing-optional campground. So there's some nudist colony stuff in the Church of the Subgenius. It all comes together, everybody. Cinemoddities@gmail.com. Tell me if you remember the Church of the Subgenius. We'll get together.
Don't you mean tell me if you're a descendant of the Yeti?
Yes, descendants of the Yeti. That's the fucking craziest shit. I think another one I had comes from when Stu wants to put Monkeybone back in his pack. He says he doesn't want to go in there because there's moldy cheese sticks and stinky gym socks. How can we not have a dish that is on a plate, moldy cheese sticks placed inside stinky gym socks?
Like half hanging out?
I like the half hanging out, so it's kind of like a, you ever see like you get those French fries that are like wrapped in paper and they're like sticking out of the paper like a cornucopia type of thing? Yeah. I was thinking more of like, maybe the moldy cheese sticks are heated up inside the stinky gym socks, so it's kind of like, what's that?
Melty.
Yeah, but there's I'm trying to remember the name of it. There's a method of cooking where you like actually cook something in like a thin rice paper. I think it's called en papillote. So it's en papillote moldy cheese sticks, but the paper and wrapper we use is Stinky Jim socks. It's perfect. I would inject myself with 5 cc's of nightmare juice way before I tried that dish, I have to say. I have some basic ones. What did you guys have for snacks? I know you guys usually come in with the events a lot more recently. I haven't had a lot of events in a while.
I think we need a cake that's served without silverware.
Oh, and it's bitchin' good?
Yeah. Yep. And the only way to clean it off your hands is to just wipe it on the table.
I do love that little bit. And I love that at that point in the movie, Bridget Fonda is just so happy to have who she thinks is Stu back. Where Brendan Fraser has the hunk of cake and he like moves his hand towards her and goes, "You want a chunk?" And she's just like, "No," and pops open champagne. Like she says the no with a little happiness because she's so excited. It's wonderful that she doesn't even think any of this is weird. She's just happy to have him back at that point. That's good. Bitchin' good cake. I like that. I have never eaten cake that way, but I would. Absolutely. Zach, any from you?
Comatini.
Oh, that's a good one. With the served with the IV drip type of thing?
I think that's a clever way of dispensing beverages.
Absolutely. I think we've talked about mainlining wine, which is just like you have wine in an IV and you take it like an IV injection. So now we can have Comatinis too.
I think we should also have some sort of scheme for our own like nightmare juice. I know you said you want nightmare juice, but I want some delivery mechanism. Maybe we sell like plush dolls and you pull it and it farts on you. I just like that. Like that's great. Like that's a great toy. Like if someone made a toy of that today, I would buy it. Like I want that so badly. It farts some sort of like weird ass chemical that's probably has some level of carcinogens in it.
I mean, what won't give you cancer, really?
Damn straight, Ben. Damn straight.
Yeah, exactly. I like that idea, Zach. I think this discussion this part of the discussion will definitely bleed into when we get to Shrek in this fortyear. Why is this movie reviled for fart humor, but Shrek is considered the greatest animated film of all time when it is nothing but toilet humor? Fuck that difference. Fuck Shrek as well. The movie Shrek literally starts with I can't even get to Shrek right now. We cannot get to Shrek right now.
Rob does not like Shrek.
We will get there. We will get there, everybody. But okay. What do you have any idea what the plush would be? Would it be like of like us? We have like Rob, Zach, Ben plushes that fart on you or something like that?
I'm not entirely sure, but yes, it should be of us. Maybe it could be a Nelson De La Rosa plush.
Ooh, okay. Some of the characters we have in the restaurant already.
Yes.
Just plush versions of them that fart on people. Okay.
Like a Vox Lux plush that farts ketamine.
I like that. I like that. You pull its string, it says, "You can fuck me a little while we're high." Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
That line is great. Because she doesn't say, "You can fuck me while we're high." She says, "You can fuck me a little while we're high." Just a little bit, you know?
Just a little bit.
Oh, I definitely want to go with pig guts in our food, in our burgers or our French fries, like in Burger God. I also do like that line where at the start, when the pig guts are introduced, when at the very beginning of the movie, when his manager is like, "Oh, we're going to meet with the Burger God representatives." And he's like, "Burger God? Isn't that the one where somebody found pig guts in their, or he says something like, fish guts in their fries?" And he's like, "It wasn't fish guts, it was pig guts. That's basically pork." And I'm like, that kind of is basically pork. I mean, tripe is sheep guts, right? And some people eat that. So, what's all this hate for Burger God and pig guts? Come on.
I think pepperoni's like primarily pig rectum.
That's some good shit, too.
Yeah, it is. I love eating me some pig ass, apparently. Pig ass on a pizza,
And then I also think that there should be some kidney burgers served at the restaurant, and with a side of liver that's been pureed by a lawnmower. Because I'm pretty sure that's what happens to the liver when it falls out of Chris Kattan at the end of the movie. The other one is, I guess it would be an event, because the stomach gets used as a football. So maybe we have people playing stomach football? So... I don't know. I'm just infatuated with the idea of using organs for things. You can't not have a bad time with that, right? Dead silence. Dead silence. Zach's like, Rob, I didn't know I wanted you to go back to the Church of the Subgenius talk, because now this is off the rails.
Yeah. We should, I mean, do we serve live monkeys in the restaurant?
I don't think so. I don't think that's come up anywhere else. I'm sure we have some form of monkey, but not living, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, we can serve a monkey on nightmare juice. So the monkey's having a nightmare and something's trying to eat it.
If we didn't get it, well, we know the episode's come out already. We know somehow the three of us did not get in trouble with PETA in our Speed Racer episode. What you just suggested, Ben, PETA is totally coming after us now. Ben's like, okay, first take a living monkey, infect it with nightmare juice. PETA's like, what's that? Juice that causes nightmares. You're missing the point. Then somebody eats it while it's alive.
Yeah, there you go.
Rob, remember last week we talked about like the woman who was mauled by the monkey? Did we talk about that on mic?
Yes,
I'm sorry, not last week,
did.
2 weeks ago.
Yes,
I like to imagine that was a very, very primitive, like turnstiles experiments of the nightmare juice with eating a live monkey.
Oh,
it was a failed. Like what happened was someone wanted to eat the monkey that was ingesting the nightmare juice, and in return, the monkey ate the person.
Oh God!
Sure, why not? Maybe it's an event and a food item. You get to try to eat.
The event eats you. The event tries to eat you eventually.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh man,
that's great, Ben. That's a fantastic concept.
Yeah, somebody orders the monkey on the nightmare juice. The person who ordered it gets their face scratched off because the monkey's on nightmare juice. The monkey eventually tires itself out so somebody else can eat the monkey.
And the whole time, all of us are just throwing like dimes and quarters at the monkey, just out of sheer delight.
I like that. I'm imagining somebody making it rain with dollar bills, like at a strip club, while a monkey's just clawing somebody's face off.
I like to imagine like everyone's like looking horrified at everything happening, and Rob's just like, "Are you not entertained?"
God, the restaurant is. I think we don't need to pitch that downtown should be part of the restaurant, because the restaurant basically is Coma Land. Probably worse than Coma Land.
It probably is. That should be a great idea for like a new version of media. Like I want Ben and Rob to go on Shark Tank and promote this idea of having a live monkey, giving it nightmare juice, and you watch it as an eating, like a medieval times eating experience.
I'm just imagining Mark Cuban is like, can you talk a little bit more about the nightmare juice? And be like, no, it's proprietary. You need to invest to learn more about the nightmare juice.
Oh my God.
That's a fair consideration.
And the whole time, like all this other sharks looking on, like in just sheer like horror, and Rob's just like, "Are you not entertained?"
Lori Grenier is like, "How does this fit into Bed Bath and Beyond?"
Oh my God.
Oh God.
All right. May I bring up one final factoid, much
okay.
like 2 weeks ago when it comes to merchandise spotlight?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Monkeybone merchandise was solicited at the 2000 Toy Fair, which usually happens in the first quarter of the year. So it took over a year for this merchandise to hit stores, which might be something indicative of maybe they delayed the film's release. And when the very limited amount of merchandise was released, it had different, a lot of it did not make it to shelves, so they scrapped a lot of it. And on top of that, the mock packaging fundamentally changed as well.
Oh, okay.
So it lends more credence that a lot of stuff happened in the year 2000. Because from what I can tell, this film was filmed primarily in 99.
Sure. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And the final thing I want to say is a suggestion is to end this episode. I would like the song that plays over the end where everyone rips off their disguises and realizes underneath them they're Monkeybone. The song Renegades by Electricity.
Yeah.
I would like that to be played in reverse.
I was definitely thinking either that or the Monkeybone theme. I'll probably do a mashup because you can't get a good version of the Monkeybone theme from the movie because, like I said, it's covered up with other stuff. But sure. That works. So I guess that brings us to the end of the Monkeybone episode. We did it. It's going to go from the column of untalked about movies in my part of the spreadsheet to the column of talked about movies finally.
Was that my column? Was that my thing too?
I don't know. I don't know for sure.
I was like, maybe.
But it's
Very
kind of
good chance.
it's kind of surprising that a lot of the things we're doing in the 2001 Fort Year have been in my side of the spreadsheet for so long. Monkeybone, Freddy Got Fingered, Rat Race. It's kind of crazy we're finally getting to these. It only took, however many years. So, with that being said, contact us at cinemodies@gmail.com if you want to tell me how right I am about the Church of the Subgenius and Monkeybone and the ideas it's putting forth. If you have any negative thoughts, don't send them to me. I will disregard them.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ben said it best. Also, check out the Cinemodies Patreon. We always check out the cool, different stuff we're doing on there, and I'm using this right now to get it on recording. I think Zach's going to be upset because he does not know. At the start of this month of March, Zach, Ben and I discussed a movie that had Sydney Sweeney as the lead actress. You're jealous. He's
what?
jealous.
You talked about Euphoria without me?
Well, kind of. I had to explain to Ben how Sydney Sweeney, in everything
the greatest
she's in,
thing ever?
Well, yes, I did explain that to Ben, and now he's aware that Sydney Sweeney is the greatest thing ever. She can do no wrong, as I say in our Patreon episode. But I also had to explain to Ben that everything she's in, she's either being yelled at by a man while half naked, or being depressed, or both.
Or Sydney Sweeney.
Yes.
Bitch, we don't eat carbs.
2, please. So everybody check out our Patreon, get access to good bonus content, support the podcast, support the three of us becoming ordained Church of the Subgenius ministers. That's going to be our reach goal, We need what, 35 times $3. That's how we should even put it on the Patreon. Like, what's your monetary goal? 35 times $3, and the word dollars spelled out. And so come support us. Other than that, join the Cinemodies subreddit, because it's a cool place where I will probably, after this comes out, post my thoughts on Monkeybone. I'll write an essay, I'm sure. And other than that, next episode is our 3-year extravaganza, which I'm very excited about. For the first time ever, we're going to have a new person on the 3-year extravaganza. That is, of course, Ben. So it might be the 3-year Ben-ganza. Extravabenza, something like that, but that'll be good.
Extravabenza.
That's pretty good.
And then we will continue on with the Fort Year. Any final thoughts from you two? Church of the Subgenius? Or do you think you're descended from a Yeti? I mean, you should be able to feel it in your bones.
Remember, we got rub our asses together as we say goodbye this episode.
Oh, that's right, we do. Ben, what do you think? During COVID times, is ass rubbing an acceptable form of communication or gesture?
I think I remember hearing that farting was an effective way to spread COVID. So
Perfect.
maybe not. I don't know.
Oh God. Okay, these guys want to go. They're dead.
Yes.
Monkeybone!
Okay, let me make sure it's super duper ultra recording.
Damn straight.
It is. Okay, I would ask if you guys are Market District Pepper Turkey Breast, but no one in the world is Market District Pepper Turkey Breast for the takes I have on this movie. No one in the world is ready for this. This is gonna break the universe. This is gonna be the Frank Ocean Endless episode all over again with the takes I have on this movie.
I am so intrigued to hear this, not just from your perspective, but to hear Ben's. This is gonna be a conversation. This might be up there for a conversation for the ages. It's either gonna be we're all unanimous, which I doubt is going to happen, or it's gonna be Rob vehemently defending this film to Ben and I collectively shrugging.
At least we can say we'll be one of the only people with a real discussion about this movie on the internet.
Yes. Oh God, yes. Thank God for that.
Which is also a big part of what I have to say about it. Okay,